Chapter 3956. In the end, Lu Ming shook his head. It was impossible to attack such a large tomb. The dead spirits in the tomb were extremely terrifying. Going there would be suicide. Even the Wuxia tribe and Sun Moon tribe did not dare to go, even though they had so many evil-suppressing seals. Guamo, where did you hide the ancient secret skill? Is it possible for the haze chi to be born there? Lu Ming asked Guamo. He planned to obtain the 3,000 ancient secret skills first before looking for the haze chi. That place is in the core of the myriad burial grounds. It is in a large tomb. That tomb is the Emperor's tomb. Guamo said. Emperor's tomb, hive. Lu Ming almost cursed. The so-called Emperor's tomb was the Emperor of the tombs. It was located above all the tombs, and the living beings buried there were definitely the most terrifying. In that case, how terrifying would the dead spirits that evolved from those living beings be? Wouldn't Lu Ming be courting death if he went there? If Guamo hid the ancient secret skill there, how could he get it? Don't worry. Since I called you here, I'm sure you can get it. Although there is a peerless Almighty buried in the Emperor's tomb, that Almighty didn't turn into a dead spirit after his death. Turning into a dead spirit depends entirely on luck. It doesn't mean that the more powerful you are, the more you can turn into a dead spirit. Guamo explained. So it did not turn into a dead spirit. Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. However, Guamo changed his tone and said, however, there are many small tombs around the Emperor's tomb to protect it. Many of these small tombs have turned into dead spirits. If you want to enter the Emperor's tomb, you have to go through these small tombs. Furthermore, the haze chi there is extremely dense. There is a high chance that the haze chi will be born there. Lu Ming immediately decided to head to the Emperor's tomb. He could obtain the ancient secret skill and search for the haze chi with spirit. Following Gumo's instructions, Lu Ming headed towards the Emperor's tomb. The Imperial tomb was at the core of the myriad tombs, where the Yin energy was the densest. However, Lu Ming had the power of the taboo and was able to resist the attack of the sinister aura. Along the way, Lu Ming avoided the terrifying tombs as well as the geniuses of the Sun Moon tribe and the Wuxia tribe. A few hours later, Lu Ming arrived at a vast land. This region was very strange. From a distance, it was possible to see an incomparably majestic mountain up ahead. However, it was not a mountain but rather an enormous necropolis. An enormous necropolis, larger than any of the other necropolises Lu Ming had seen along the way. Surrounding the large tomb were smaller tombs. These smaller tombs were like guards. Actually, he was not wrong. The creatures buried in these small tombs were indeed the guards of the terrifying existence in the Emperor's tomb. When that terrifying existence was buried, he had killed a group of guards and used them as his tomb guards. Hoo-hoo, the Yin energy was rolling and it was even colder than ice. Lu Ming had to cross the tombs of the guards to enter the Emperor's tomb. Without hesitation, Lu Ming turned into a gust of wind and flew forward. Everywhere he passed, the thick Yin energy was broken. Suddenly, a terrifying roar could be heard. A figure dashed toward Lu Ming at high speed. Then a terrifying roar was heard. A blade light broke through the Yin energy and slashed towards Lu Ming. Without hesitation, Lu Ming swept the silver spear in his hand towards the blade light. Since arriving here, Lu Ming had Chiu turn into an armor to cover his body. He was fully armed and ready for battle. Boom! The blade light slashed the silver spear. The silver spear vibrated violently. Lu Ming's body shook violently and he was pushed back tens of thousands of meters. He felt his blood boiling and he almost vomited blood. At this moment, Lu Ming finally saw what the existence that had attacked him looked like. It was an existence with a human body and a crocodile head. It was more than 3 meters tall and wore tattered iron armor. It held a thick saber in its hand and Yin energy soared to the sky. This was an undead spirit and it was extremely powerful. Bang! The undead spirit with a human body and a crocodile head stomped heavily on the ground. Its body was like a small mountain as it smashed towards Lu Ming. The heavy saber slashed down at Lu Ming's head. The space was directly split into 2 halves. At this time, Lu Ming did not wave the silver spear to block. In Lu Ming's left hand, a dazzling golden light suddenly burst out. Then 16 golden runes flew out. Lu Ming took out the evil suppression rune. The evil suppression rune was undoubtedly the most effective way to deal with undead spirits. It saved him a lot of trouble and effort. Under the dazzling golden light, the crocodile head stone spirit could not help but stop. Its body made a sizzling sound and emitted bursts of black smoke. Roar! The crocodile head stone spirit kept roaring as its body kept retreating. Suppress! Lu Ming poured in the forbidden energy with all his might. The forbidden energy was too advanced. After it was poured into the evil suppression rune, the golden light of the evil suppression rune was extremely dazzling. It was as if dozens of yikshaws were controlling it at the same time. Chi-chi. The crocodile head undead spirit's body was constantly corroded and its aura was getting weaker and weaker. Finally, it let out an unwilling roar and turned around to run. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. After the undead spirit escaped, Lu Ming immediately put away the evil suppression rune. After all, constantly controlling the evil suppression rune like this consumed a lot of energy. Lu Ming continued to fly towards the emperor's tomb. However, not long after, another undead spirit attacked him. This time, several undead spirits attacked Lu Ming from all directions. Moreover, these undead spirits seemed to belong to the same race. They were the same as the undead spirit that Lu Ming had encountered before. They also had a human body and a crocodile head. They wore tattered iron armor and held a thick saber. Lu Ming wouldn't fight these undead spirits head-on. He took out the evil suppression rune and scared the undead spirits away. After that, Lu Ming encountered more than 10 undead spirits. All of them were scared away by the evil suppression rune. Finally, Lu Ming arrived at the emperor's tomb. Something's not right. Someone went in first. The door of the tomb is open. Bone Demon shouted. Lu Ming took a look. Indeed, the tombstone of the great tomb had been moved aside by a crack. Are you sure it was sealed before? Lu Ming asked. Of course there's no mistake. Someone must have gone in first. Kid, go in quickly and stop them. Bone Demon shouted. Whoosh. Before Bone Demon could finish his words, Lu Ming had already rushed out. In the next moment, Lu Ming had already rushed into the great tomb. In the emperor's tomb, the yin qi was so dense that it almost materialized. Lu Ming wasn't surprised. Instead, he was happy. With such a dense yin qi, the chances of yin qi with spirituality were much higher. The emperor's tomb was very spacious. There was a passage that led straight ahead. Lu Ming spread out his spiritual sense and scanned the surroundings. His figure was like a gust of wind as he rushed forward along the passage. All of a sudden, Lu Ming stopped in his tracks as he sensed a terrifying sense of danger. In the next moment, a huge pressure surged toward him from the front. Chapter 3957. A terrifying force suddenly appeared in the tomb of the emperor and surged toward Lu Ming. Without thinking, Lu Ming raised his silver spear diagonally. Like a silver rainbow, it pierced through the void and pierced toward that force. Boom. The two powerful forces collided with each other. Lu Ming's body shook violently as he retreated and hit the wall of the imperial tomb. He felt that several of his bones were broken and he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, before Lu Ming could react, a figure had already rushed towards Lu Ming. It's him? Lu Ming narrowed his eyes. He was a little surprised because the person who attacked him was actually Yin Jioling. However, Yin Jioling didn't seem to be in the right state at the moment. Yin Jioling's body was full of Yin evil qi. His eyes were dark and there was no white in them like two dark vortexes. His face was distorted and he looked very ferocious. Brr. Yin Jioling roared and rushed towards Lu Ming. He clawed continuously with his hands and the space exploded, making a terrifying whistling sound. Lu Ming didn't hesitate and took out the gale pearl. Suddenly, the wind whistled and a terrifying and scorching gale swept out. The scorching gale broke through the Yin Qi and rushed towards Yin Jioling. Boom. Boom. Yin Jioling's claws grabbed the gale and there was a violent explosion. For a time, the gale was about to be broken. So strong? Lu Ming was shocked. He found that Yin Jioling's strength was much stronger than when he fought with him before. Because at this moment, Yin Jioling didn't use the Divine Yin Pagoda at all. He didn't use the Divine Yin Pagoda at all. Without using the Divine Yin Pagoda, he could actually compete with the gale head-on. Such strength was terrifying. In just a few hours, how could Yin Jioling's strength have improved so much? Lu Ming could feel that Yin Jioling's cultivation hadn't improved and he was still at the second layer of the Divine Emperor realm. His cultivation hadn't improved but his combat strength had skyrocketed. That's not right. This guy's body has been possessed by a strand of baleful Yin Qi. Guillemot said. What? He has been possessed by the baleful Yin Qi. How is that possible? Lu Ming was bewildered. What's impossible? When the baleful Yin Qi has spirituality, it goes one step further and gives birth to intelligence. It will be very terrifying and become a strange life form that can seize other creatures and attach itself to other creatures. Obviously, this Yin Jioling was seized by a wisp of baleful Yin Qi that gave birth to intelligence. This kid is completely finished, Guillemot said. Lu Ming was really shocked. Who would have thought that on top of the baleful Yin Qi that had spirituality, there was also the baleful Yin Qi that had intelligence? It was extremely terrifying and could actually possess other living beings. Obviously, a wisp of evil chi with intelligence was born in this emperor's tomb. Jiuling broke in first and was taken over by the evil chi. No wonder he became so crazy and was full of evil chi. Boom. Boom. Jiuling was extremely crazy, roaring constantly and bombarding wildly. In the end, he actually completely blocked the gale that Lu Ming pulled out. Then he roared and charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming continued to pull out the gale in the gale bead and attacked Jiuling, blocking Jiuling. Then, bringing the baleful chi with intelligence to the heavenly palace should be qualified, right? Lu Ming muttered. Of course it's a higher level. How can it not be qualified? Moreover, you have to deal with this Jiuling. Guo said. What? Lu Ming was curious. Why did he have to deal with him? At most, he could go to other places to find the baleful chi with intelligence. Because the ancient secret technique and other demon Dao secret techniques that I left behind are already in his body. Guo said. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Because I used to seal the ancient secret technique and some ordinary demon Dao secret techniques in a bone bead. Now I can clearly sense that this bone bead is in Jiuling's body. Guo continued to explain. Lu Ming understood. It turned out that he was one step behind and Jiuling had obtained the secret skill left behind by Bone Demon. Then Jiuling really deserved to die. Evil beast, give me your life. Lu Ming shouted, crazily pulling the power of the gale bead. At the same time, a long staff appeared in his right hand. Xian'ai staff. Boom. The Xian'ai staff with a violent aura crushed towards Jiuling. Boom. Jiuling was directly hit by the Xian'ai staff. He roared and retreated, coughing out a few mouthfuls of blood. The baleful chi on his body was constantly flickering. However, Jiuling was fine and resisted the attack of the Xian'ai staff. Because the rich baleful chi between heaven and earth was constantly gathering towards Jiuling. Jiuling's aura became stronger again. Jiuling roared like a mad beast. The baleful chi between heaven and earth, like waves, was attracted by him and turned into violent energy, surging towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's face was a little dignified. Jiuling never used the lunar divine tower. Lu Ming estimated that after Jiuling was seized by the baleful chi, he could no longer use the lunar divine tower. Such a great weapon had spirituality and could recognize people. After being seized, it was equivalent to not being Jiuling anymore. However, he did not use his great weapon. This was the land of thousands tombs, the emperor's tomb, a place where baleful chi was born. Jiuling had a unique advantage here. He could erupt with powerful strength and was extremely difficult to kill. Just now he was hit by the Xian'ai staff, but he was still fine, which showed how terrifying it was. Lu Ming controlled two great weapons at the same time. It would not take long at all. Could he really kill Jiuling? Lu Ming was not sure and could only go all out. Boom. Boom. The power of the two great weapons erupted. First, the strong wind in the gale bead blocked the attack of Jiuling. Then, the Xian'ai staff broke through the layers and bombarded Jiuling's body. Jiuling was blasted out and hit the wall. The baleful chi on his body trembled and his aura withered. However, the surrounding baleful chi continued to gather towards Jiuling. His injuries were healed in an instant and his aura was even more terrifying. How can I fight this? Lu Ming was speechless. Boy, are you stupid? Use the evil suppression rune. Bone Demon reminded. Yes. Lu Ming wanted to slap himself. He was completely stunned just now and forgot to use the evil suppression rune. The baleful chi was similar to the dead spirit after all. The evil suppression rune could completely restrain it. With a thought, a set of evil suppression rune flew out, exuding a golden light and pressed against Jiuling. Jiuling kept roaring, black smoke rose from his body. In his dark eye sockets, there was fear and his figure retreated. Chapter 39:58. Lu Ming used the evil subduing rune to repel Jiuling. Jiuling retreated and then turned to run. Wanna leave? Stay. Lu Ming shouted and chased after Jiuling. However, Jiuling was very fast and while running he controlled the chi to rush towards Lu Ming. In the emperor's tomb, the chi was too dense, like a chi storm, completely blocking Lu Ming's vision. When Lu Ming broke through a few waves of chi, he had already lost track of Jiuling. Damn it. Lu Ming was very unhappy. This time in the land of thousands of tombs, he didn't get the ancient secret technique and demon Dao secret technique left by Bone Demon, nor did he get the spiritual chi. It was the first time Lu Ming entered a place without any gains. This guy can't run away. He has my bone bead on him, I can sense his approximate location. Bone Demon said. Is he still in the emperor's tomb? Take me there. Lu Ming said. No, he has left the emperor's tomb. I don't think he will stay in the land of thousands of tombs. Bone Demon said. Won't stay in the land of thousands of tombs? What? Lu Ming asked. That's because the baleful Yin Qi has gained sentience and possessed other living beings. It will constantly devour other baleful Yin Qi to strengthen itself, especially the baleful Yin Qi with sentience. So, there are no other spiritual Yin Qi in the land of thousands of tombs. I guess they were all devoured by this wisp of Yin Qi. That's why it is so powerful. Next, if he wants to devour other Yin Qi, he will have to go to other places with dense Yin Qi. Naturally, he will have to leave the land of thousands of tombs. I can sense that he is quickly heading towards the periphery of the land of thousands of tombs, Bone Demon quickly explained. I see. Lu Ming nodded, his face a little gloomy. It wasn't that there was no spiritual Yin Qi in the land of thousands of tombs, but it had been devoured by this wisp of Yin Qi. Where is he? Let's chase him. Lu Ming said. If it was just Yin Qi, Lu Ming didn't care. At most, he would look for another place. But there was an ancient secret technique on the other party, Lu Ming must get it. Cultivating the forbidden physique, he couldn't comprehend the origin secret technique. So, the 3,000 ancient secret techniques were his strongest offensive means. Each one of them was precious. Furthermore, if he wanted to walk the path of the strongest in the future, all sorts of secret arts would be his foundation, especially the 3,000 ancient secret arts. The more, it would be more beneficial for him in the future. Under the guidance of Bone's guidance, Ming chased after him. With the help of the great god Wind's skill, Lu Ming was like a wisp of green smoke. His speed was astonishing. Ordinary people would not be able to catch sight of him. However, Yin Jioling's speed was not slower than him. When Lu Ming reached the edge of the land of thousands of tombs, Bone told him that Yin Jioling had entered the vast starry sky. Lu Ming couldn't rush out because the two races were blocking him. However, Bone Demon had left more than one teleportation formation here. Lu Ming found a new teleportation formation and left the land of thousands of tombs. Then he activated the teleportation formation on his body and traveled through the void. With their current cultivation, their speed was too fast. Countless planets and the boundless starry sky were left behind by them. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. The Dark Pit Demon Mountain was a huge mountain that was suspended in the starry sky. This Dark Pit Demon Mountain was also a place of extreme Yin. In the chaotic universe, it was more famous than the land of thousands of tombs because it was a famous forbidden area in the chaotic universe. Of course, it wasn't too dangerous during normal times. Once the Yin Qi erupted, this place would completely turn into a land of death. No one could get close to it. Even the big shots above the Divine Emperor realm would die if they came. Of course, during this period of time, it was not the time for the Yin Qi to erupt. Therefore, during this period many people came here. They were all here to search for baleful Yin Qi with spirituality. There was no doubt that the Dark Pit Demon Mountain would produce a lot of Yin Qi. On the huge Demon Mountain, people could be seen flashing by from time to time. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared outside the Demon Mountain. This person was full of strong Yin Qi and his face was ferocious. It was Yin Jioling. Mine, it's all mine, no one can take it away. Yin Jioling roared and rushed into the Dark Pit Demon Mountain like a bolt of lightning. After a few breaths, he suddenly appeared in front of a young man. This young man had the cultivation of the third Divine Emperor realm and was very powerful. He was definitely a top genius. However, when he saw Yin Jioling, he was shocked. You're Yin Jioling? The young man was shocked. These candidates of the universe young geniuses list were very famous. Their portraits could be seen in the dreamy divine jade, so they were easy to recognize. Evil Yin Qi, it's mine, go to hell. Yin Jioling roared. His murderous intent was extremely strong. He suddenly charged at the young man. His sharp claws were as sharp as blades, wrapped in dense Yin Qi. Yin Jioling, you're crazy. The young man was shocked and hurriedly defended himself. However, although his cultivation level was one level higher than Yin Jioling's, the difference in battle strength was huge. He could only block one attack, but his forehead was pierced by Yin Jioling's claws and he died on the spot. Yin Jioling moved his hand and a storage ring appeared. Then a black Qi flew out of the storage ring. It was the evil Yin Qi. Furthermore, this baleful Yin Qi seemed to be alive. It was like a small snake that was constantly twisting. This was a wisp of baleful Yin Qi that had its own consciousness. It's the evil Yin Qi with intelligence, haha, it's mine. It's mine. At this moment, a few people passed by and saw the evil Yin Qi. They looked greedy, but when they got close, they suddenly stopped and exclaimed. It's Yin Jioling, one of the candidates of the universe genius list. Several people exclaimed and showed great fear. However, it was too late for them to stop, because Yin Jioling had already attacked them. A few screams resounded and these people were killed by Yin Jioling one after another. Then Yin Jioling opened his mouth and sucked this wisp of evil Yin Qi into his mouth. Suddenly the evil Yin Qi on Yin Jioling's body trembled and became extremely rich. His aura also increased by a level. Yin Jioling roared excitedly and glanced at the peak of the dark pit demon mountain. Then he turned into a rainbow light and rushed to the peak of the mountain. This is Yin Jioling? Why does he have such rich evil Yin Qi? Could it be that he has more than one wisp of evil Yin Qi? No matter who he is, let's kill him first. On the dark pit demon mountain, there were ruthless people from various races. Some of them were not afraid of the Sun Moon tribe at all and directly attacked Yin Jioling. However, Yin Jioling was extremely evil and powerful. Those who attacked him were all killed by him, leaving a ground full of corpses. The others were shocked and did not dare to attack Yin Jioling. Chapter 39:59. Yin Jioling is going to rush to the top of the dark pit demon mountain. Is his target the pit? However, ordinary people can't get close to the pit at all. Only peerless geniuses can't get close. However, with Yin Jioling's talent he can definitely reach the top of the mountain. However, the 8 positions near the pit have been occupied by others. If Yin Jioling wants a position, there will definitely be a fierce battle and a peak battle will break out. Let's go and have a look. These people didn't dare to get close to Yin Jioling. They followed Yin Jioling from afar, heading towards the top of the dark pit demon mountain. At the same time, the news quickly spread out. On the dark pit demon mountain, many creatures gathered around and followed Yin Jioling from afar, heading towards the top of the demon mountain. However, when they were close to the top of the mountain they had to stop and look. Because, in the pit at the top of the mountain, there would be a terrifying demonic sound of death. This demonic sound was very terrifying and could kill people silently. Moreover, this demonic sound of death would adjust the intensity according to the cultivation base. The lower the cultivation base, the lower the impact of the demonic sound of death. The higher the cultivation base, the higher the impact of the demonic sound of death. If one wanted to reach the top of the dark pit demon mountain, no matter what kind of cultivation base one had, it was useless. One must have peerless talent and invincible combat strength to reach the top. As long as one's talent was high enough, one could reach the top even with a low cultivation base. If one's talent wasn't high enough, one couldn't reach the top no matter how high one's cultivation base was. These people were searching at the bottom of the dark pit demon mountain because they couldn't reach the top. If they could reach the top they would have done so long ago. Because at the top of the demon mountain, in the pit, there would be spiritual Yin Qi rushing out. There was no need to look for it at all. They just had to wait there. Sometimes, there would even be other extreme Yin treasures rushing out. However, all the positions near the sinkhole were occupied by people. If Yin Jioling went up there would definitely be a battle. These people stopped and watched from afar. They could clearly see that there was a huge pit at the top of the mountain. In each of the 8 directions of the pit, there was a living being. These living beings were either standing or sitting. Their eyes were bright as they stared at the pit as if waiting for something. Yin Jioling didn't stop at all. He kept moving forward, heading towards the top of the mountain. His speed was extremely fast and he did not stop at all. He only slowed down when he neared the top of the mountain. When Yin Jioling was climbing the mountain, the 8 creatures around the pit also looked at Yin Jioling. At the same time they also recognized Yin Jioling. Some were expressionless while others frowned. Especially in front of Yin Jioling, there was a young man about 30 years old. He was burly and more than 6 meters tall. His real body was a gigantic ape and he was also a terrifying genius. His name was Korean, and he had the strength of the 4th godly emperor layer. He looked at Yin Jioling who was coming up with a dignified expression, but he was not afraid. Yin Jioling, this place has been occupied by me, you can leave now. The giant ape youth said. Those who block me shall die. Yin Jioling roared and the dark Yin Qi in his body kept rolling. The 8 creatures on the top of the mountain were puzzled. Why was Yin Jioling's dark Yin Qi so dense? Did he already have dark Yin Qi? But if he already had dark Yin Qi, why did he still come here? Yin Jioling, others are afraid of you but I'm not. You're a candidate for the universe's young geniuses list. Hee, I'd like to meet you. Korean said coldly, and his eyes were filled with battle intent. He was also a peerless genius and he had always been conceited. He had the strength of the 4th godly emperor layer, which was 2 layers higher than Yin Jioling. He did not believe that Yin Jioling was stronger than him. Die. Yin Jioling roared and his sharp claws broke through the air, trying to grab Korean's head. Korean shouted and a terrifying chi burst out. His muscles bulged and an iron rod appeared in his hand. The iron rod whistled and attacked Yin Jioling. Boom. Their attacks collided, and there was an earth-shattering explosion. But at the next moment, Corian's expression changed drastically, and he was pushed back. His muscles were trembling. Swoosh. Yin Jioling's attack was endless, constantly bursting out, tearing the void apart. The sky was full of sharp claws condensed by Yin Qi, and there were at least hundreds of them, grabbing towards Coriander. Coriander roared, and his divine power erupted. His entire body shone with dazzling golden light, and a giant ape covered in golden fur appeared. It held a golden staff in its hand, and it swept through the army. That giant golden ape was Corian's original secret technique. Rumble. There was a big explosion and the Qi was rolling wildly. However, it was blocked by an invisible force, and the Qi couldn't go more than 100 meters away. Once it was 100 meters away, it automatically disappeared. After a series of exchanges, Corian was pushed back again and again, and he was completely suppressed. There were several wounds on his body and his bones were bleeding. He was no match for Yin Jioling at all. Not only him but even the people around him were in disbelief. Corian was not an ordinary person. He was a peerless genius, but he was no match for Yin Jioling even though his cultivation was 2 levels higher. Moreover, Yin Jioling didn't use any powerful weapon, and he was completely relying on his own strength. What they didn't know was that Yin Jioling was no longer Yin Jioling at this moment, but he was possessed by Yin Qi. His current combat strength was stronger than Yin Jioling's previous strength. What's more, the Yin Qi in the Dark Pit Demon Mountain was extremely rich, and Yin Jioling's strength was also enhanced. Therefore, Corian was still no match for Yin Jioling even though his cultivation was 2 levels higher. Yin Jioling became crazier as he fought. The surrounding Yin Qi was driven by him and it turned into a terrifying attack. It was like a storm and it was constantly pouring towards Corian. After a few more moves, there were a few more wounds on Corian's body. One of the wounds almost split his body in half. Corian was seriously injured and his aura was getting weaker and weaker. He was no match for Yin Jioling. Yin Jioling, brother Yin, I admit defeat. I don't want this position anymore. I will give it to you. Corian shouted and directly admitted defeat. If he continued to fight, he would be in danger. However, Yin Jioling didn't care about him at all, and his attacks became more and more violent. Blood spurted out and Corian's burly body was directly torn in half by Yin Jioling's claw. Corian was not dead yet and his eyes were full of horror. He desperately screamed and begged for mercy but it was useless. Yin Jioling's claw directly crushed Corian's head. Corian was dead. Around the dark pit there were a few people who were frightened. But there were also people who showed a strong fighting intent. For example, one of them was a young man who was more than 2 meters tall, wearing a purple armor. His purple hair fluttered in the wind, and his fighting intent was extremely strong. Chapter 3960. However, Yin Jioling didn't intend to continue the battle. After killing Coriander, he took a few steps and came to the side of the pit. Then he jumped directly into the pit and disappeared. At this moment, everyone was shocked. Yin Jioling jumped directly into the pit. Was he looking for death? The pit was very dangerous. The Dark Pit Demon Mountain was a famous forbidden area in the primitive universe because of the pit. No one knew what was in the pit. No one knew how the pit was formed. They only knew that it was very terrifying and dangerous. In history, some powerful cultivators had entered the pit and wanted to explore it, but in the end they didn't come out. None of the people who had entered the pit had ever come back out. But Yin Jioling jumped into the pit himself. Wasn't he looking for death? At this time, Lu Ming also arrived at the Dark Pit Demon Mountain. The Bone Demon sensed that Yin Jioling was at the top of the mountain. Lu Ming rushed to the top of the Dark Pit Demon Mountain. When he was halfway there, he saw Yin Jioling killing Coriander and then jumping into the pit. Damn it! Lu Ming shouted angrily. The ancient secret skill was still in Yin Jioling's body. Lu Ming was a little anxious and exerted his speed to the extreme. However, those who were watching in front of him blocked his way. Go away! Lu Ming hollered. His figure did not stop. He dashed toward the crowd, bringing about a violent air wave. Boy, who do you think you are? How dare you ask me to go away? Go away yourself. Someone saw that Lu Ming, who was just a quasi-emperor, was so arrogant. He was instantly displeased and wanted to give Lu Ming a slap. Bang! Lu Ming threw a punch. The person screamed and was sent flying, vomiting blood. The others were shocked. The person who had attacked Lu Ming just now was at the second Divine Emperor realm. However, he was not Lu Ming's match and was injured by Lu Ming's punch. They were shocked by Lu Ming's strength. Another monstrous genius wanted to climb the mountain. The surrounding people couldn't help but make way for him. It wasn't that they were afraid of Lu Ming. Among them, there were people with extremely high cultivation bases who weren't afraid of Lu Ming at all. They were just curious and wanted to see if Lu Ming could withstand the demonic tune of death and reach the peak. After reaching the top of the mountain, would he be able to compete with the remaining 7 people? This was what they wanted to see. Therefore, Lu Ming quickly stepped into the area enveloped by the demonic tune of death. When Lu Ming stepped into the area, a cacophony of voices rushed into Lu Ming's ears. This voice was mournful, disorderly, sharp, crazy. It was hard to describe the specific emotion, but it contained many different emotions. This kind of voice could drive people crazy. Those who were not mentally strong would instantly go crazy. Lu Ming's state of mind was extremely firm. His mind was empty of other things. He allowed these voices to enter his ears without any ripples in his heart. His speed almost did not decrease as he rushed towards the top of the mountain. However, the closer he got to the top of the mountain, the more terrifying the demonic tune was. In the end, the voice contained a terrifying energy attack. The cells in Lu Ming's body trembled, and the forbidden force spread all over his body, blocking the energy in the demonic tune of death. In the end, Lu Ming set foot on the top of the mountain, standing at the place where Coriander stood just now. Standing on the top of the mountain, there was a large pit in front of him. It was actually a cave, dark and unfathomable. Dense yin qi continued to seep out from the pit. Just one look at it was enough to make one feel a sense of terror in their hearts. Lu Ming's face was a little gloomy. Yin Zhouling jumped into the pit. He couldn't follow him down for the sake of an ancient secret technique. However, since he was here, Lu Ming decided to wait until he got a wisp of spiritual yin qi before leaving. On the top of the mountain, the other 7 people also looked at Lu Ming curiously. They had never seen such a young man with a quasi-emperor cultivation base, so they were naturally a little curious. Interesting. Among them, there was a young man in purple armor with a head full of purple hair. He stared at Lu Ming, revealing a raging battle intent. Suddenly he stepped out and in a few flashes he appeared in front of Lu Ming. A powerful aura pressed towards Lu Ming. Battle God Yuanwen is going to make a move. They are both quasi-emperors, he must be itching for a fight. Battle God Yuanwen is almost invincible in the same realm. Now that he saw an unfamiliar quasi-emperor genius, it would be strange if he didn't make a move. There were bursts of exclamations all around. Battle God Yuanwen. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly, and battle intent involuntarily appeared in his eyes. This was the battle intent that was involuntarily aroused when encountering a powerful opponent. Because Battle God Yuanwen was worthy of Lu Ming's battle intent, although the Battle God Yuanwen was only a quasi-emperor. However, Battle God Yuanwen was too famous. The first in the top 100 quasi-emperor list. He was a peerless genius of the Battle Saint tribe, one of the top 10 tribes. He was known as the #1 talent of the Battle Saint tribe. He had always been invincible in the same realm. No one was a match for him. Without a doubt, he was also one of the candidates of the Universe Prodigy list. Although he hadn't broken through to the Godly Emperor realm, no one doubted whether he could break through to the Godly Emperor realm. Breaking through to the Godly Emperor realm was a certainty. Even entering the Universe Prodigy list in the future was also a certainty. It was also very likely that he would enter the top 10. Although such a character was only a quasi-emperor, his name had already shaken the universe. Lu Ming had also heard of him long ago. In the face of such a character, Lu Ming's battle intent was also ignited. Battle God Yuanwen could be said to be standing at the peak of the quasi-emperors in the entire primitive universe. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call him the #1 quasi-emperor expert. Lu Ming wanted to know if his forbidden body was stronger or if Battle God Yuanwen was stronger. Boom. A powerful aura erupted from Lu Ming's body and collided with Battle God Yuanwen's aura. The void trembled violently. The void was compressed by a terrifying force, distorting and shattering it. Interesting. I can feel that you are very strong. There are indeed crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the primitive universe. There is actually someone like you among the quasi-emperors. Good, very good. Battle God Yuanwen nodded repeatedly, revealing a look of excitement. The Battle Saint tribe was a battle maniac. They loved to fight big battles and also loved to find other geniuses to fight. Battle God Yuanwen was even more battle-hungry than ordinary Battle Saint tribe members. I have heard of your name. Battle God Yuanwen, you are said to be invincible among those of the same realm. Coincidentally, I have never met a worthy opponent among those of the same realm. I hope you won't disappoint me. Lu Ming said. The cells in his body trembled slightly. Lu Ming was speaking the truth. However, in the ears of others, Lu Ming was too arrogant. What big words! Do you think you are invincible after reaching the peak of the Dark Pit Demon Mountain? Do you think you are invincible among those of the same realm? Someone sneered and mocked. Chapter 3961. Lu Ming's words attracted a lot of ridicule. They thought that Lu Ming was too arrogant to compare himself to the battle god Yuan. He even faintly did not put the battle god Yuan in his eyes. He was too arrogant. In the universe, at least so far, among the quasi-emperors, there was no one who was qualified to talk to the battle god Yuan like this. Lu Ming ignored the ridicule of others. His attention was all on the battle god Yuan. Before the fight even started, the battle god Yuan had already brought some pressure to him. Lu Ming had never encountered this before. Haha, I hope your strength is as strong as your confidence. I also want to say something in your words, that is, I hope you won't let me down. The battle god Yuan laughed. As soon as his voice fell, his aura had reached its peak. Boom. The battle god Yuan suddenly took a step forward. The ground roared. His person was like a mountain rushing towards Lu Ming. He threw out a punch. The purple divine power boiled and turned into a terrifying fist energy, crushing towards Lu Ming. Good. Lu Ming let out a long howl and similarly threw a punch. Lu Ming did not borrow the power of Qiuqiu. It was all his own power. The opponent was at the same level as him. If he borrowed the power of Qiuqiu, he would not be able to survive. His belief of being invincible would be shaken. Boom. The two terrifying fist energies collided in the air, causing the void to tremble. The middle of the collision turned into chaos. The fist energy was like a wave sweeping in all directions. However, it dissipated into nothingness 100 meters away. Lu Ming and the battle god Yuan retreated at the same time. Good. I won't test you anymore. Take this, battle 18 strikes. The battle god Yuan roared. His figure flashed and struck out. The space collapsed. He used a terrifying secret technique, bursting out a terrifying killing power, and attacked Lu Ming. The destructive power surged towards Lu Ming like a tide. Great divine wind technique, great shattering technique. Lu Ming's heart moved. The two ancient secret techniques were activated. He attacked continuously, causing a hideous crack to appear in the void. The two figures were like two planets, colliding fiercely. All kinds of attacking techniques clashed continuously. Boom, 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 boom. Between heaven and earth, there was a violent roar. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows, but it was difficult to determine the victor. Impressive. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. At this moment he had already activated the battle symbol formula to increase his combat power by 5 times, but he still couldn't do anything to battle god Yuan. The battle god Yuan also had a terrifying secret art. It was an innate secret art of the Battle Saint tribe and was able to erupt forth with combat prowess several times stronger than before. It was somewhat similar to the battle character art. This was Lu Ming's first time encountering such a powerful genius in a battle of the same level. 6 times, Lu Ming bellowed in his heart. The fight incantation had increased his combat ability by 6 times. His combat ability had increased by a notch in an instant. Impressive. The battle god Yuan was even more excited. His attacks suddenly changed. They were incomparably sharp and stronger than before. Could it be the origin ancient word? Lu Ming's heart moved. Although the quantum art wasn't with him and Lu Ming couldn't sense whether the other party had the origin ancient word or not, he had been controlling the origin ancient word for a long time. In the battle with the battle god Yuan, he vaguely felt that the other party had also controlled the origin ancient word. With the battle god Yuan's talent, it was normal for him to control the origin ancient word. The attacks of the two were even more terrifying. The battle was even more intense. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 100 blows. Everyone in the surroundings was dumbfounded. Including the other 6 terrifying creatures on the top of the demon mountain, they were all dumbfounded. Because the attacks of Lu Ming and the battle god Yuan were too terrifying. Was this still a battle between quasi-emperors? The most important thing was that someone could fight with the battle god Yuan like this? Who was this person? Was there such a person in the primitive universe? Quick, open the Dreamy Divine Jade and broadcast the battle to the Dreamy Divine Jade. Someone shouted. The others woke up from their dream and quickly took out the Dreamy Divine Jade to broadcast the battle live. In the public area of the Dreamy Divine Jade, several messages appeared almost at the same time. Shocking, the battle god Yuan has met an opponent. Shocking, at the same level, someone can fight Yuan Wen to a draw. The battle god Yuan Wen's opponent is here. The continuous messages detonated the dreamy divine jade and the entire universe. In an instant, countless people watched the battle between Lu Ming and the battle god Yuan Wen through the dreamy divine jade. At first, many people didn't believe it. They didn't believe that someone could fight with the battle god Yuan Wen, but after watching the live broadcast, they were shocked. It was actually true. God, who is this person? He can actually fight with the battle god Yuan Wen. There is actually such a genius in the universe. I haven't seen him before. This person is most likely hiding his true appearance. It's a pity that I'm not at the scene. Otherwise, I can judge who he is through his life origin aura. What a terrifying battle power. In the future, there will be another strong competitor in the top 10 of the universe prodigy list. The universe was in an uproar. After all, the battle god Yuan Wen was known as the number one among his peers and dominated the entire universe. The appearance of such a character would definitely attract attention. As long as he didn't die halfway, his future rise was certain. At this moment, many geniuses in the universe were alarmed. For example, the geniuses on the universe prodigy list were paying attention with a dignified look. Because such a character would definitely have an impact on their status in the future, they naturally had to pay more attention. Lu Ming didn't know that he had attracted the attention of countless people in the universe. At this moment, Lu Ming was wholeheartedly immersed in the battle. He only felt incomparably carefree. He had never fought with someone of the same level so happily. This was a completely different feeling from fighting with someone of a higher level. Boom. With a violent explosion, the two of them retreated rapidly and faced each other from afar. Awesome. Battle god Yuan Wen was the same as Lu Ming. He also felt incomparably carefree. He was so excited that his body was trembling. The power you control is terrifying. You can actually fight against my battle saint force. Come, let's continue the battle. I want to borrow your strength to step into the deity emperor realm. Battle god Yuan Wen said. His eyes were shining brightly. That's exactly what I want, Lu Ming said. Every cell in his body was trembling. His eyes were filled with excitement and battle intent. The power controlled by the battle god Yuan Wen wasn't to be underestimated. It was a terrifying power called the Battle Saint Force. This power was unique to the Battle Saint tribe. However, even in the history of the Battle Saint tribe, there were very few people who could control this power. Everyone who could control this power was a hero of their generation. Chapter 3962. Battle god Yuan Wen was the only one among the younger generation of the Battle Saint tribe who had grasped the Battle Saint Force. Of course, it didn't mean that the Battle Saint Force could really contend against the Taboo Force. The reason why Battle god Yuan Wen and Lu Ming were evenly matched was because other than the Battle Saint Force, Battle god Yuan Wen also had the God Force. The God Force that had awakened the Origin Source God Force multiple times, coupled with the Origin Source secret technique, was boundless. Furthermore, he had the secret technique that was compatible with his Battle Saint body. It could be said that Battle god Yuan Wen was very comprehensive in all aspects, with almost no weaknesses. There was another important reason, and that was that Lu Ming's Taboo Force had yet to reach its peak. There was still a lot of potential for it to grow. Each of Lu Ming's cells could fuse with a secret technique rune. When Lu Ming's cells fused with more secret technique runes, his Taboo Force would naturally become stronger. Right now, Lu Ming's Taboo Force wasn't strong enough. Therefore, it seemed that he was evenly matched with the Battle Saint Force. Both of their eyes were filled with fighting spirit. In the next moment, the two of them turned into two streaks of light and clashed once again. All kinds of secret techniques collided in the void. The two of them used their full strength, erupting their techniques to the extreme. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged over 100 moves. Lu Ming didn't plan to use the Gale Pearl because someone like Battle god Yuan Wen would definitely have a powerful killing weapon. It would be useless even if he used it. Moreover, it was a fair battle. There was no need to use the Gale Pearl. As for the Bingxian Rod, there were so many people watching. Lu Ming would not use it as much as possible. As for Battle god Yuan Wen, he had a similar thought. He naturally had a terrifying killing weapon, but he and Lu Ming were having a fair battle. If he used his killing weapon, then he wouldn't be Battle god Yuan Wen. In fact, their killing weapons were only used when their cultivation base was much higher and their lives were in danger. It could be considered a kind of trump card. Around the Dark Pit Devil Mountain, in various parts of the universe, the people who were watching through the illusory heavenly jade were all silent. They were all watching this peak battle between quasi-emperors. For a quasi-emperor to be able to erupt in a battle of this level, it was hard to come across such a scene even in countless years. Every single one of these characters could suppress an era. For two of them to appear at the same time in an era was too difficult, too rare. They had only been heard of in legends. The battle between Lu Ming and the battle god Yuanwen became more and more intense. Bang! Lu Ming's palm landed on battle god Yuanwen's shoulder. The power of the great godly wind technique and the great shattering technique almost dislocated battle god Yuanwen's entire arm. However, his battle-sacred body was extremely powerful. It forcibly blocked the attack, but blood still flowed out. His blood was purple and emitted divine light. When Lu Ming hit battle god Yuanwen's finger was like a sword. The full power of the battle 18 strikes erupted, turning into a terrifying penetrating power that penetrated Lu Ming's abdomen in one fell swoop. A bloody hole appeared in Lu Ming's abdomen, and blood was also flowing out. Lu Ming's blood, mixed with the purple blood of the battle god Yuanwen, spilled on the dark pit demon mountain, and some spilled into the dark pit. Awesome again. That's exactly what I want. The two continued to fight. After a few moves, both of them were injured again. Divine blood drifted out, but the two of them did not seem to feel it. Their fighting spirit became stronger and stronger, and their eyes became brighter and brighter. Lu Ming and battle god Yuanwen's cultivation were originally at the limit of the quasi-emperor realm. They both needed an opportunity to break through and step into the divine emperor realm. At this moment, the two of them saw this opportunity in each other at the same time. They felt that they were not far away from the breakthrough. The more they fought, the more condensed their essence, chi and spirit became. Are they about to break through? There were 6 other powerful existences at the peak of the dark pit demon mountain. No matter what their cultivation was, they were all monstrous figures. Otherwise they would not have been able to set foot on the peak of the dark pit demon mountain. They were the closest to Lu Ming and Yuanwen. They could clearly feel that the two of them were about to break through. If the two of them really broke through in the battle, it would probably create a legend in the primitive universe, and become a topic of conversation after dinner. However, at this moment something strange happened. Rumble. In the dark pit, a violent roar suddenly came from an unknown depth. Everyone's face changed wildly. What's going on? Is the pit going to erupt? Impossible, it's not the time to erupt at all. In the dark pit demon mountain there were cries of horror. The dark pit demon mountain was a terrifying forbidden area in the universe. Once the pit really erupted, none of them on the dark pit demon mountain would be able to leave. Rumble. A violent roar sounded again, and then, a terrifying force erupted from the pit. Then a figure rushed out of the pit. Was Yin Zhouling. Yin Zhouling had jumped into the pit himself, but at this moment he was rushed out. Was the vibration just now caused by Yin Zhouling? What did Yin Zhouling encounter in the pit? Also, he jumped into the pit and came out alive? There was an uproar at the scene. He was the first person to enter the pit and come out alive. Countless people wanted to know what Yin Zhouling encountered in the pit. But at this moment, 2 dazzling rays of light rushed out of the pit. One was blood red and the other was purple crystal clear. The 2 rays of light entangled together and turned into a light shield, enveloping the surroundings of the pit. Lu Ming, battle god Yuanwen, and the other 6 powerful existences, plus Yin Zhouling, were all shrouded in the rays of light. As for the other people on the dark pit demon mountain, they were not shrouded, but the rays of light blocked their vision, making them unable to see what was happening inside. The illusory heavenly jade could not illuminate the situation inside. At this moment, whether it was the people on the dark pit demon mountain or the people watching through the illusory heavenly jade, they were all confused. What happened? Why would 2 rays of light rush out and shroud the peak of the dark pit demon mountain? They couldn't guess. Rumble. The people outside saw that the light shield formed by the purple-red rays of light was constantly vibrating and emitting a roar. The people inside are bombarding the light shield. Could it be that they can't come out? Someone guessed. Obviously they guessed right. After a period of time, no one rushed out. Outside, there were bold people who tried to control the divine weapon to attack the purple-red light shield, but when the divine weapon approached the purple-red rays of light, the divine weapon was like ice meeting fire and directly melted. The others were scared and hurriedly moved away, not daring to approach. Could it be the King Qing domain? In the illusory heavenly jade, someone sent out a message with a little doubt. Then, someone recognized that the speaker was a mighty figure from the Blood Clan, one of the top 10 clans. This caused everyone to be shocked. Even the powerful figures of the top 10 races were alarmed by this matter. Chapter 3963. King Realm? What's that? Immediately many people raised their doubts. Because they had never heard of it before. I'm just guessing. I'm not sure. The Blood Tribe expert said. That's right. This is the King Realm. At the next moment, someone spoke out and gave a definite answer. Someone recognized that the person who spoke was an ancient existence from the Buddha tribe. The Buddha tribe was also one of the top 10 tribes. The existence who spoke was a legendary figure who had lived for a long time. Many people were shocked. It was just a fight between two juniors, but it actually attracted such a powerful existence. It was really terrifying. Senior, can you tell us what the King Realm is? Someone asked. The King Realm would only appear occasionally in some very ancient places. For example, the Dark Pit Demon Mountain is an extremely ancient forbidden land. If I'm not wrong, it's the divine blood of the two young geniuses that activated the King Realm. Their talents are too strong. The ancient existence from the Buddha tribe explained. Everyone was shocked. Even the ancient existence from the Buddha tribe sighed. The two young geniuses' talents were too strong. This was the greatest recognition. At the same time, they were also enlightened. It turned out that the purplish-red light shield was caused by the battle between the two young geniuses. It was stimulated by the divine blood of the two young geniuses. No wonder the color was purplish-red. Lu Ming's blood was red, while battle god Yuanwen's blood was purple. However, no one said anything. They were waiting for the ancient existence from the Buddha tribe to explain. The ancient existence from the Buddha tribe continued. Once the King Realm is activated, the group of people with the strongest talents will be enveloped and trapped inside. Only the strongest among them will be able to come out. What? Only the strongest of those trapped inside can come out. Doesn't that mean that most of the people trapped inside will die? Everyone was shocked. That's right. This rule is very cruel. The people inside will have to kill each other. The winner will be the king. Therefore it's called the King Realm. Those who come out alive will be the strongest king. The ancient existence from the Buddha tribe said. CSISI. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This time many big tribes were alarmed and it caused a huge uproar. Because these big tribes had peerless geniuses inside. For example, the Battle Saint tribe, the Sun Moon tribe, the Azura tribe. Among these people only the strongest could come out. Didn't that mean that everyone else had to die? Among the people here who could be called the strongest, was battle god Yuanwen the strongest at the same level? However, there was still the person who fought against the battle god Yuanwen. Was his cultivation the strongest? There were quite a few of them with extremely high cultivation bases. Wouldn't that mean that someone like the battle god Yuanwen would fall inside? In the King Realm there are usually great restrictions. For example, it is difficult to use powerful weapons, and the cultivation will be suppressed to a certain level. As for the details, each King Realm is different, so I don't know. That ancient existence from the Buddha race added. Lu Ming, battle god Yuanwen, and Yin Jioling stood in different directions in the area covered by the purple-red light shield. Their faces were gloomy. In the beginning they were indeed a little flustered and attacked the purple-red light barrier. However, they were all extraordinary people and quickly calmed down. Do any of you know what is going on? Battle god Yuanwen asked. Although he wanted to continue fighting with Lu Ming and break through completely, in the face of such a situation, they could only stop fighting. I don't know. You have to ask Yin Jioling, said a ferocious-looking young man who was about 30 years old, looking at Yin Jioling. That young man was from the Azura clan. He was older than Lu Ming, Yin Jioling, and battle god Yuanwen, but he was still a young man. His cultivation base was very high, reaching the 5th godly emperor layer. Besides, he was also a terrifying genius. Otherwise, no matter how high his cultivation base was, he wouldn't have been able to reach the top of the Dark Pit Demon Mountain. The others also looked at Yin Jioling because Yin Jioling had jumped into the pit and then there was a change. If it wasn't caused by Yin Jioling, who else could it be? In fact, even Lu Ming thought so. Yin Jioling's eyes were ferocious, like two pitch-black vortexes, filled with murderous qi. After a short while, his qi had become even more terrifying. He had broken through to the 3rd godly emperor layer. It's the King Realm. It's not caused by that boy. At that moment, Gu Mo's voice resounded in Lin Fan's mind. What's the King Realm? Asked Lu Ming curiously. Look at the illusory godly jade. Some old guys in the universe should be able to recognize it. Maybe someone will give you an explanation. Said Gu Mo immediately. Lu Ming took out the illusory godly jade. The illusory godly jade wasn't isolated, so he could still see what the others were talking about. In fact, battle god Yuanwen and the others also took out their illusory godly jades and wanted to ask their elders. Then, they saw the explanation of the powerful cultivator of the Buddha clan. After reading it, they were shocked and released a powerful qi. They looked at the others vigilantly. What's going on? My cultivation base is only at the 1st godly emperor layer. My cultivation base is also at the first godly emperor layer. Damn it. Some people shouted angrily. Especially the young genius of the Azura clan, his face was even more ferocious. Originally, among the 9 people here, his cultivation was the most outstanding. There was only one person who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. On top of that, with his talent he was confident that he could keep all of them here. Battle God Yuanwen was strong, but he was only at the first emperor layer, so he didn't take him seriously. But now, his cultivation base was at the first godly emperor layer. He didn't have an advantage anymore. The others, regardless of their cultivation level, were all at the first godly emperor layer. First godly emperor layer? Whispered Lu Ming. He was at the first godly emperor layer, so his cultivation level couldn't be increased, so he didn't feel anything. I can't even use powerful weapons. Look at the Zephyr Pearl and the Shen Ice Rod. Lu Ming tried to control the Shen Ice Rod and the Zephyr Pearl, but he realized that there was no reaction at all. It was as if the connection between them had been cut off. Lu Ming's heart sank. He couldn't use powerful weapons. Only the strongest cultivators could get out of here. Lu Ming wasn't completely confident. First of all, Battle God Yuanwen was extremely difficult to deal with. Besides, the other 7 geniuses were also terrifying. Even if there wasn't a genius like Battle God Yuanwen, the weaker ones were also terrifying. For example, Yin Jiuling, who was a candidate for the Universe Young Geniuses list. Those people were also terrifyingly strong. They were all at the first godly emperor layer. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen didn't have an advantage because their cultivation levels weren't high enough. Instead, they were at a disadvantage. Chapter 3964. The peak of the dark pit demon mountain suddenly fell into silence. Only Yin Jiuling occasionally roared. The other 8 people looked at each other and saw a strong murderous intent in each other's eyes. If they wanted to leave alive, they had to get rid of the others. Interesting, really interesting. It's so interesting to be able to get rid of so many geniuses at once. I will use you as my stepping stone to break through to the godly emperor realm. Battle God Yuanwen grinned and his eyes were full of fighting spirit. At this time he was still fighting like a madman. His aura seemed to have reached a critical point. Lu Ming's aura was also extremely powerful and had reached a peak. However, no one made the first move. They were all on guard against each other, waiting for the others to make the first move so that they could reap the benefits. The scene was in a stalemate. Brr. At this time Yin Jiuling roared again and jumped into the pit, as if something in the pit was attracting him. However, when he jumped into the pit, there was another powerful aura that rushed out of the pit and forced Yin Jiuling out. This madman, I suggest that we make a move first and get rid of Yin Jiuling so that he won't cause any more trouble. What do you think? The young man from the Shura clan said. This person was called Xiao Moyun, and he had been eyeing Yin Jiuling since the beginning. Among the 9 people present, Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen were undoubtedly the strongest at the same level, but their cultivation was only at the quasi-emperor realm, so they were not the biggest threat to him. The biggest threat to him was Yin Jiuling. After all, Yin Jiuling was a candidate for the Universe Prodigy list. He was extremely powerful and was one of the top geniuses in the universe. His current cultivation was suppressed to the first godly emperor realm, just like him. He had no confidence to fight against Yin Jiuling, so he had to get rid of Yin Jiuling first. On the side, the others were also tempted. Their thoughts were similar to Xiao Moyun's. Kill? Xiao Moyun took the lead and condensed a Shura sword with his divine power. It broke through the void and slashed at Yin Jiuling. Brr. Yin Jiuling saw someone attacking him and roared, revealing a ferocious murderous intent. He pounced at Xiao Moyun with his sharp claws. Evil Yin Qi filled the air. Clang, clang. The sound of metal colliding rang out continuously. The two of them had exchanged more than 10 moves in an instant. Then a figure retreated, covered in blood. It was Xiao Moyun. After exchanging a few blows, he was injured. This made him extremely shocked. Yin Jiuling's strength was much stronger than he had imagined. Brr. Yin Jiuling roared and continued to attack Xiao Moyun. What are you waiting for? Xiao Moyun roared. However, none of the people on the side made a move. They all looked on coldly. It wouldn't be too late to let Yin Jiuling deal with Xiao Moyun first. Moreover, Xiao Moyun could consume a portion of Yin Jiuling's strength. Then they would deal with Yin Jiuling. In this way he could deal with the Xiao Moyun and Yin Jiuling at the same time. Of those who could make it this far, which one of them was simple? Xiao Moyun wanted to use the others to deal with Yin Jiuling first, but the others directly used him. All of you deserve to die. Xiao Moyun instantly guessed the thoughts of others and roared, but Yin Jiuling had already attacked him, so he could only do his best to resist. However, Yin Jiuling was too strong. He was originally a candidate of the Universe Prodigy list. After being possessed by the evil Yin energy, his battle strength became even stronger, and his attacks were crazily aggressive. Although Xiao Moyun was also a peerless monster, he wasn't qualified to be a candidate of the Universe Prodigy list. In a battle of the same level, his battle strength was weaker than Yin Jioling's. He was completely at a disadvantage and was suppressed by Yin Jioling. After more than 10 moves, Xiao Moyun was almost beheaded by Yin Jioling. Although he narrowly avoided it, he was still seriously injured. Damn it, all of you deserve to die, then die together? Xiao Moyun knew that he couldn't escape, so he roared crazily. His body swelled rapidly and he was about to self-destruct. However, Yin Jioling didn't seem to know and continued to rush over. His sharp claws pierced through Xiao Moyun's head. Boom. At this moment, Xiao Moyun's body suddenly exploded, and a terrifying force swept in all directions. However, Lu Ming, Battle God Yuan Wen, and the others were already prepared. They had already retreated to the edge of the King Qing domain, and set up layers of defense in front of them, blocking the power of Xiao Moyun's self-destruction. Yin Jioling was at the center of Xiao Moyun's self-destruction, so he suffered the most intense destructive impact. Yin Jioling's figure retreated rapidly, and there were many hideous wounds on his body and black blood flowed out. However, in the pit Yin Qi was constantly attracted by Yin Jioling, and it poured into his body. His wounds were quickly healing. The others' faces became solemn. This Yin Jioling is not right. Could it be that he has gone mad? It's more terrifying than I imagined. Let's attack together and get rid of him first. It's best to attack together. The remaining few people were transmitting their voices to each other. The next moment, among the remaining 5 people, 4 rushed out at the same time and attacked Yin Jioling. There was still one person who didn't attack. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuan Wen didn't attack either. However, when the 4 experts joined forces, their power was extremely shocking. Because each of these people was a peerless genius, and each of them had the combat strength of a divine Emperor Realm expert. Yin Jioling roared and pounced on the 4 people. The 2 sides started a fierce battle. The 4 experts joined forces to fight Yin Jioling, and Yin Jioling suddenly fell into a disadvantage. He was hit continuously and there were several wounds on his body. Yin Jioling was injured by Xiao Moyun's self-destruction, and his combat strength wasn't at its peak. When the 4 experts saw that Yin Jioling was injured, their attacks became more violent. At the same time they were transmitting their voices to each other. Those 3 guys don't attack. Very well, after we kill Yin Jioling we will kill them and then the 4 of us will fight to determine the winner. What do you think? Okay, it depends on who can go out in the end. The 4 discussed secretly and their attacks were fierce. For a time Yin Jioling was in danger and there were more and more wounds on his body. Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he was considering whether to attack. Because the ancient secret skill left by the Bone Demon was with Yin Jioling, and he had to get it. But in the end Lu Ming still didn't attack. The current situation was very complicated, and it was better to preserve a little bit of strength. After more than 10 moves, Yin Jioling's situation became more critical. His body was tattered and it seemed that he was going to die at any time. Rumble. At this moment, there was a violent vibration from the bottom of the pit, and then, a strong Yin Qi rushed out of the pit. There were a few strands of Yin Qi in the Yin Qi. Chapter 3965. Among the Yin Qi there were a few strands of Yin Qi. These strands of Yin Qi seemed to be alive, like small snakes that were swimming around. This was a Yin energy that possessed spirituality. Originally, the dark pit would spew out dark Yin Qi with spirituality. Previously, Battle God Yuan Wen and the others had been guarding here, waiting for the dark Yin Qi to come out. At this moment, seeing the Yin Qi spurt out, the people present were not too surprised. At this moment, being alive was more important than anything else. Only a few of them dashed forward and grabbed at the murderous aura. They were Lu Ming, Battle God Yuan Wen, and Yin Jioling. Yin Jioling roared and rushed to the pit desperately. He opened his mouth and inhaled, and the Yin Qi rushed towards Yin Jioling. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuan Wen's face changed. Swish. Lu Ming condensed a huge hand with his taboo power. With a grab, he caught a wisp of Yin Qi with spirituality in his hand. Battle God Yuan Wen shot out 2 beams of light from his eyes. These 2 beams of light were like 2 chains, entangling the Yin Qi and collecting it. 4 strands of spiritual Yin Qi were collected by Lu Ming and Battle God Yuan Wen, and the remaining 2 strands were sucked into Yin Jioling's mouth. However, Yin Jioling absorbed the Yin Qi wholeheartedly, but ignored his own defense, and was bombarded by the attacks of the 4 masters. Bang! Yin Jioling's body directly exploded into pieces. Only his head was left. It flew out and was wrapped in dense evil yin qi. At this moment, the yin qi that rushed out of the pit suddenly rolled back and fell back into the pit. Yin Jiuling's head took the opportunity to rush into the yin qi, and with the yin qi, it rushed into the pit and disappeared in front of everyone in the blink of an eye. The four masters looked at each other with a pale face. Yin Jiuling was forced to rush into the pit, and they didn't know whether he was dead or not. If it was someone else, they would be relieved because they would never return after rushing into the pit. But Yin Jiuling had rushed down once before, but he came out safe and sound, so they were not confident. Who knew whether Yin Jiuling was dead or not? Forget it, let's get rid of these three people first. Yes, Yin Jiuling only has one head left and he is seriously injured. He probably won't survive. Let's get rid of them first and then we will decide the winner. The four masters transmitted their voices to each other, and they glanced at Lu Ming, battle god Yuan Wen and another middle-aged man. Let's join forces. The middle-aged man's face changed wildly and he quickly said. The reason why he didn't make a move before was that he wanted to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight, because he always felt that Yin Jiuling was very strange and wouldn't be killed so easily. He didn't expect that Yin Jiuling would be killed so easily. At this time when he saw the four masters looking at them he was shocked. It's too late. I'll send you to hell. Two of the experts charged toward the middle-aged man while the other two charged toward Lu Ming and battle god Yuan Wen in a flash. One of them. They were confident enough. Although Lu Ming and battle god Yuan Wen were strong, they were all at the Divine Emperor realm. They could deal with Lu Ming and battle god Yuan Wen. Kill. Let's fight. Lu Ming and battle god Yuan Wen were fearless and they roared and attacked. One of them against one. The two sides collided in an instant, and they continued to attack each other. In the blink of an eye they had exchanged more than 10 moves. However, their opponents were indeed powerful. Although they were suppressed to the first godly emperor layer, they were still able to kill cultivators of the fourth godly emperor layer. Although Lu Ming tried his best, he was still at a disadvantage and he retreated quickly. On the other side, battle god Yuan Wen also retreated quickly, and he was also at a disadvantage. Sure enough, those who could step on the dark pit demon mountain weren't simple. They weren't much weaker than Yin Jiuling. As soon as Lu Ming retreated, the other party chased after him and continued to attack him. Explode. Lu Ming shouted and his whole body glowed. All the secret techniques turned into dazzling brilliance, covering Lu Ming's body. At the same time, the battle character formula increased his fighting strength by 6 times, and the Great Holy Wind technique and Great Shattering technique were activated to the extreme. Boom, boom, boom. Both sides exchanged more than 10 moves, and Lu Ming's chest was pierced by a sword qi. He coughed up blood and retreated. However, despite being injured, Lu Ming's eyes were still bright, and he had a firm and unyielding belief. There was only motivation when there was pressure. There was a sense of crisis and there was more motivation. At this moment he could not use his trump card and even Chiu could not move. He could only rely on himself. Lu Ming was excited because the opportunity to break through was getting more and more obvious. Previously, when he fought with battle god Yuan Wen, he felt the opportunity to break through. He felt that he was only a step away from breaking through. At this moment, facing the crisis, this feeling was even stronger. Fight, fight, let's fight to our heart's content. Come on, you don't seem to have any strength. Ah. On the other side, battle god Yuan Wen also laughed without a trace of fear. Instead, he was more excited. He also felt the opportunity to break through. At this moment, a shrill scream was heard. The middle-aged man, besieged by the two experts, screamed and died on the spot. After killing the middle-aged man, the two experts also pounced on Lu Ming and battle god Yuan Wen. In this way it became 2 against 1. Originally, Lu Ming was facing one of them and facing 2 of them was even more dangerous. Lu Ming's heart was pierced by a sword qi. Then a terrifying fist force hit his abdomen. Lu Ming flew out, vomiting blood, and his body almost exploded. However, the potential stored in Lu Ming's cells gushed out crazily, and his injury was quickly healing. Soon, just a little bit more. Lu Ming's eyes were bright and he was a little excited. In the face of a life-and-death crisis, his potential was stimulated to the extreme. Kill. Lu Ming shouted and took the initiative to attack the 2 experts. Bang, bang, bang. After a series of collisions, Lu Ming was injured again and was forced to retreat. Let's kill him in one go. Kill. After injuring Lu Ming, the 2 experts unleashed their ultimate moves and attacked Lu Ming, wanting to kill Lu Ming completely. But at this moment, boom. A violent aura rushed out of Lu Ming's body, like a volcanic eruption, bringing with it a violent burst of energy. Breakthrough. At this moment, Lu Ming finally broke through and stepped into the Divine Emperor realm. At the moment of breaking through to the Divine Emperor realm, the potential stored in Lu Ming's cells was stimulated to the extreme, and all of it was transformed into Lu Ming's cultivation. Hungry. In an instant, Lu Ming was engulfed by endless hunger, as if he had not eaten for 100,000 years. Incomparable hunger was revealed in every cell. Let me absorb it. With a thought in Lu Ming's mind, piles of elven tree heart flew out, and the surging life essence madly converged towards Lu Ming. Chapter 3966. A large pile of elven wood hearts turned into surging waves of life essence and converged towards Lu Ming. Every cell in Lu Ming's body was crazily devouring and absorbing the life essence. Satisfaction. A sense of satisfaction spread throughout his body. Breakthrough. The two experts besieging Lu Ming were shocked. They did not expect that Lu Ming could break through under their joint attack. What kind of monster was he? Kill, we can't let him break through. One of them roared. Together with the other, they charged toward Lu Ming in a frenzy. When Lu Ming was still a quasi-emperor, his combat strength was already so terrifying. Once he broke through to the Divine Emperor realm, his combat strength would soar and he would definitely be far above them. They must not let Lu Ming break through. Once Lu Ming broke through, they would be the ones to die. The two experts exerted their full strength and launched two incomparably sharp and terrifying attacks towards Lu Ming's head. Kill? Lu Ming suddenly shouted and violent energy swept out from his body, forming a terrifying shockwave. The two experts were hit by the shockwave and their bodies shook violently as they retreated. Lu Ming seized the opportunity and continued to devour the life essence of the elven wood hearts crazily. Break for me. On the other side, Battle God Yuanwen also roared and a terrifying aura burst out from his body. Breakthrough. Battle God Yuanwen also broke through at the critical moment under the joint attack of the two experts. Dazzling gems appeared on his body. These gems weren't divine gems, they were precious gems that contained rich and pure energy. These energies were like a great river that rushed into the Battle God Yuanwen's mouth. The two experts were also shocked and wanted to attack Battle God Yuanwen, but they were also repelled by him. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen broke through the shackles and entered the Divine Emperor realm one after another. Their aura became more and more terrifying. As for the four experts, their expressions were extremely ugly. Everyone, we have to go all out. If we don't, we'll be the ones to die. Go all out, kill. Burn. The four experts revealed a frenzied look. The divine power in their bodies burned like flames. They went all out. Regardless of the consequences, they burned their divine power and origin and charged toward Lu Ming and the Battle God Yuanwen. They had to kill the two of them. At this moment, they were filled with regret. If they had known earlier, they would have killed Lu Ming and the Battle God Yuanwen from the very beginning. Previously, the two of them were only quasi-emperors. Although they were excessively monstrous, they did not take them to heart. They were fully confident that they could suppress Lu Ming. Who would have thought that the two of them could break through to the Divine Emperor realm in the middle of the battle? Now the ones who will die are you. Lu Ming's eyes emitted an incomparably resplendent multicolored light. His entire body was shrouded in a fierce wind. Instead of retreating, he advanced and attacked the two experts. His palm was like a blade, shattering the void as he attacked continuously. Boom, boom. Lu Ming and the two experts exchanged blows, causing two violent explosions. Then two muffled groans could be heard. The two experts were pushed back violently as blood spurted out from their bodies. Cracks appeared on their bodies caused by the great shattering art. Blood flowed out from the cracks. After breaking through to the Divine Emperor realm, whether it was the Great Divine Wind technique or the Great Shattering Art, their power had increased tremendously. Moreover, Lu Ming had just broken through and had yet to gain a firm foothold in the Divine Emperor realm. Otherwise, he would have killed the two experts with that move. After all, the gap between the quasi-emperors and the divine emperors was huge. Once a breakthrough was made, one's combat strength would increase tremendously. Even so, Lu Ming's combat strength was above the two experts. Fight, fight, fight. On the other side, the battle god Yuanwen roared madly. His combat strength was unparalleled, causing the other two experts to vomit blood. How could this be? The four experts all revealed a panic-stricken expression. They were all geniuses of their generation and their future was limitless. They did not want to die here. Looking at Lu Ming's cold eyes, they felt chills all over their bodies. Brother, why don't you spare our lives? We can cooperate and leave this place together. One of the young men shouted at Lu Ming and begged for mercy. Lu Ming replied with a cold smile. They wanted to kill him when they had the upper hand. Now that they were no match for him, they wanted to cooperate. How could that be possible? Lu Ming was not an easy person to talk to. Lu Ming took a step forward and continued to force his way toward the two experts. It's not that easy to kill us. You'll have to pay the price too. Let's fight. The two experts saw that Lu Ming was not going to let them go. They looked ferocious and went all out to attack Lu Ming. However, no matter how hard they tried, their cultivation was suppressed to the first divine emperor realm. They were at the same level as Lu Ming. Even though Lu Ming had just broken through, they were still far from him. After a few attacks, their bodies were almost torn apart. A dozen of their bones were broken. Let's die together. One of them went crazy. His body swelled up as if he was going to explode. Lu Ming quickly retreated. Boom. A terrifying explosion sounded as the man exploded. A terrifying strength swept in all directions. The destructive strength was not only aimed at Lu Ming, but also at the others, including the battle god Yuan Wen and the other two experts. The explosion of such an expert was indeed terrifying. Lu Ming had retreated in time, but he was still injured. His chest and abdomen were in tatters and many of his bones were broken. However, those injuries were nothing to Lu Ming. He was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. On the other hand, the expert who besieged Lu Ming together with this person was not so lucky. He was directly engulfed by the destructive power and was blasted into smithereens. At the same time, the two experts who were fighting against the battle god Yuan Wen were slightly further away, so they were less affected. However, they were also seriously injured. The battle god Yuan Wen was also injured, but his injuries were much lighter. Battle 18 strikes. The battle god Yuan Wen did not care about his injuries at all. As soon as he retreated, he attacked again. His fingers were like swords as he attacked continuously. Poof. The two experts were already seriously injured and dispirited. At that moment, they could not block the attacks of the battle god Yuan Wen. They were directly killed by the battle god Yuan Wen. Now, only Lu Ming and the battle god Yuan Wen were left on the peak of the dark pit demon mountain. Haha, in the end only the two of us are left. Just nice, I can use you as a stepping stone to become an invincible king and break through the king realm. The battle god Yuan Wen looked at Lu Ming, his battle intent was burning fiercely. At the same time, he was still absorbing the energy of the crystals to stabilize his divine emperor realm cultivation. Of course, Lu Ming was also absorbing the life essence of the elven wood heart to stabilize his cultivation. Chapter 3967. Your words are exactly what I want to say. You are a rare opponent. I will go all out to make my name as invincible. Lu Ming said. Aha, you have confidence and strength. I like it. Since you are about to die in my hands, I still don't know your name. I want to see when someone like you appeared in the universe. Battle god Yuan Wen said. To be honest, he had some sympathy for Lu Ming. At his level, it was too difficult to find a real opponent. Mu Yun. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and said the name Mu Yun. Mu Yun? Battle god Yuan Wen revealed a thoughtful look and then said, not long ago, the person who was in an uproar with the elf princess Ling Yue was also called Mu Yun. Could it be you? That's right. Lu Ming nodded. So it's you. It seems that everyone has underestimated you. Battle god Yuan Wen said. After saying this, the two fell into silence. However, their auras became stronger and stronger. Like waves, they met in the middle and collided fiercely. Boom. The collision of auras was like a stormy sea. In the next moment, two figures rushed towards each other. The two peerless monsters once again fought together, pushing their combat strength to the peak. Battle 18 strikes. Great God Wind technique, great shattering technique. Terrifying killing moves collided in the void. In an instant, the two had exchanged dozens of moves. After dozens of moves, the two retreated at the same time and stood on both sides of the pit, facing each other from a distance. The battle just now was still undecided. I really want to know what kind of power you control to be able to compete with my Battle Saint force? Battle God Yuan Wen said, very curious. As long as you can defeat me, I will naturally tell you. Lu Ming said. Very well, my curiosity will soon be realized. Battle God Yuan Wen was still very confident. For example, geniuses like Lu Ming and Battle God Yuan Wen had almost swept away all their opponents along the way. They had never met a worthy opponent at the same level and had developed the belief of being invincible. Even if they met an opponent now, they still had the belief of being invincible and believed that they could defeat their opponent. Their auras burst forth and they were about to fight again. But at this moment there was another change in the pit. With a loud explosion, a gust of yin qi rushed out. Along with this wave of yin qi, a figure rushed out. This figure was actually Yin Jiuling. Previously, Yin Jiuling only had his head left and rushed into the pit. But now he had recovered and his body was intact. Furthermore, his aura was extremely terrifying. His entire body was covered in a dense murderous aura. It was possible to see the murderous aura slithering in and out of his mouth and nose like tiny snakes. His appearance was extremely strange. Kill. Yin Jiuling landed next to the sinkhole and immediately let out a roar. He clapped his palms consecutively and a strong evil aura rushed out of his palms, turning into two pitch-black pythons that bit toward Lu Ming and fighting god Yuanwen respectively. The Yin Qi whistled, bringing with it a terrifying might, giving Lu Ming a sense of crisis. Boom. Lu Ming's palm was like a knife, slashing with all his strength. It collided with the python's head and there was a violent explosion. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt a cold and terrifying force rushing towards Lu Ming. Even the forbidden force could not completely block it. Lu Ming's body retreated rapidly. A layer of black qi appeared on the surface of his body. This time, the black qi was extremely strange, as if it was going to corrode Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body shook and the forbidden force in his cells burst out, shaking off the black qi. On the other side, battle god Yuanwen was not much better. He was also repelled by the python. "No, Yin Jiuling's state is not right," battle god Yuanwen shouted. He also found that battle god Yuanwen's state was extremely strange, as if he was possessed by the devil. Moreover, in the King realm, their cultivation was suppressed to the first divine emperor layer. However, Yin Jiuling was extremely terrifying. He repelled Lu Ming and battle god Yuanwen with one move. Was Yin Jiuling so strong? Impossible. In the entire primitive universe, no one at the same level could defeat the two of them in one move. He is no longer Yin Jiuling. He has been possessed by the evil Yin Qi. Lu Ming said. He has been possessed by the evil Yin Qi with spiritual intelligence? Is there such a thing? No wonder he could come out alive after entering the sewer. Battle god Yuanwen suddenly realized. Yin Jiuling was no longer an ordinary creature. It could be said that he had evil Yin Qi so he could come out alive from the sewer. Die. While Lu Ming and battle god Yuanwen were talking, Yin Jiuling roared and launched an attack on Lu Ming and battle god Yuanwen. Yin Jiuling had swallowed a lot of evil Yin Qi in the sewer. Even if his cultivation was suppressed to the first divine emperor layer, he was still very terrifying. With a wave of his hand, the sky was full of evil Yin Qi. The dense evil Yin Qi between heaven and earth was also driven and turned into a terrifying attack, attacking battle god Yuanwen. "He's mine," battle god Yuanwen shouted. His body was shrouded in purple divine light as he attacked Yin Jiuling. He used his divine power to condense a purple halberd and used the halberd to perform the War 18 strikes, launching a fierce attack. The Battle 18 strikes of the Battle Saint tribe was an extremely terrifying secret technique. It could perfectly combine with the bloodline of the Battle Saint tribe, the Battle Saint body and the Battle Saint force of the Battle Saint tribe. It was very mysterious and there was no fixed technique. Every member of the Battle Saint tribe could practice it, but what they comprehended was different and the power was also very different. The Battle 18 strikes of the battle god Yuanwen was undoubtedly very powerful. When the halberd struck down, heaven and earth trembled. "Yin Jiuling is my prey. I came here because I was chasing him." Lu Ming also shouted coldly. He jumped up and attacked Yin Jiuling. All kinds of secret runes in his cells shone and turned into a dazzling light, forming a mysterious attack power that crushed Yin Jiuling. Boom. Boom. The three experts started a peak battle. In the battle domain, terrifying rumbling sounds could be heard. Fortunately, this scene was isolated by the Battle King domain. Otherwise, it would definitely shake the entire universe. At this moment, Yin Jiuling was so terrifying that it was a little strange. Lu Ming and battle god Yuanwen joined forces, but they could only suppress him by a little. If they were alone, they might not be his opponent. What exactly is this baleful Yin Qi that has its own consciousness? It's just a possession, how can it be so terrifying? Lu Ming secretly asked Bone Demon. He was really shocked. It was just a wisp of baleful Yin Qi that had its own consciousness, but it actually made Yin Jiuling so terrifying that he could fight against his taboo force and the battle saint force of battle god Yuanwen. It didn't make sense. Moreover, Lu Ming also thought of another problem. The Heavenly Palace asked everyone to collect the baleful Yin Qi to register. They definitely had to collect the baleful Yin Qi. This showed that the baleful Yin Qi was somewhat extraordinary. Chapter 3968. Even the Heavenly Palace was collecting Yin Qi with spirituality. What was the secret behind this? You're right. Once the Yin Qi has spirituality, it's very extraordinary. It's very likely that it's related to a terrifying place? Guillemot said. What terrifying place? Lu Ming asked. Dark universe. Guo said. Dark universe? What's that? Lu Ming was curious. He had never heard of a dark universe. As for what it is, you will definitely know when you become a heavenly soldier. You will most likely come into contact with it personally. Even if I explain it now, you won't understand. Guo said. Lu Ming could only suppress the curiosity in his heart and continue to fight with Yin Jiuling. The three of them fought fiercely. However, Lu Ming and Battle God Yuan teamed up and eventually gained the upper hand and slowly suppressed Yin Jiuling. Boom. After hundreds of moves, Lu Ming hit Yin Jiuling's head. Bang. A large part of Yin Jiuling's head exploded and was full of cracks. However, with the Yin Qi running, Yin Jiuling's head was quickly healing. However, there was still a bone bead that flew out from the place where it exploded. This was the bone bead left by Guo, which sealed the ancient secret technique and other demon secret techniques. Previously, Guo had sensed that the bone bead was in Yin Jiuling's left head. Therefore, Lu Ming specifically targeted Yin Jiuling's head. After hundreds of moves, Lu Ming finally seized the opportunity and blasted the bone bead out. The bone bead flew out and was caught by Lu Ming. Finally got it. Lu Ming showed a hint of joy and kept the bone bead in his storage ring. Yin Jiuling let out an angry roar. The Yin Qi around the pit was controlled by him and rushed toward Lu Ming and Battle God Yuan like waves. The reason why Yin Jiuling was so strong was related to the environment here. Around the Dark Pit Demon Mountain, especially the peak of the Dark Pit Demon Mountain, the Yin Qi was too strong. Yin Jiuling was like a fish in water here and could exert 120% of his strength. Boom. Boom. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuan unleashed their killer moves, breaking through the layers of Yin Qi and attacking Yin Jiuling. The three of them started fighting again. The battle between the three grew more intense. In the blink of an eye, another 200 moves had been exchanged. At this point in the battle, the three of them were all covered in blood, all of them injured. Purple blood, bright red blood, pitch black blood. 3 types of blood spilled out. The 3 strongest demonic geniuses fought each other crazily. Boundless energy had already accumulated in this region. All of a sudden, the King Cheng domain around the ditch shook violently. Outside, around Demon Mountain, many living beings who were watching suddenly became excited. The King Realm is about to break. The cruel battle inside is about to end. Who will be able to come out alive? Is it the prodigy of the Azura clan or Yin Jiuling? Or is it the Battle God Yuan and that mysterious demon? I don't know what kind of cultivation level will be suppressed in the King's domain. If it's suppressed to the Godly Emperor layer, then the Battle God Yuan and that mysterious genius will die. If that's really the case, then it's a pity. Those 2 peerless geniuses. The scene was filled with discussions. Many people were broadcasting the battle to the entire universe through the illusory divine jade. Countless people were watching the purple and red King Cheng domain nervously. Many of the major clans were extremely nervous, because they had demonic geniuses inside. If they couldn't come out alive, it would be a great loss. Especially the Battle Saint tribe, they were the most nervous. The Battle God Yuan's talent was too high. Even in the vast history of the Battle Saint tribe, he was one of the top geniuses. Once he reached the major success stage in the future, he would become a terrifying overlord of the universe, a character that could suppress an era. The strength of the Battle Saint tribe would also become stronger, suppressing the other top 10 tribes. If such a character died inside, it would be a pity. It would be an inestimable loss. Many of the major figures of the Battle Saint tribe were staring at the King Cheng domain through the illusory divine jade. The Sun Moon clan, Azura clan and other clans were also doing the same. The King Cheng domain vibrated more and more violently. Suddenly, with a loud boom, it exploded, turning into a rain of light and dissipating. When the King domain exploded, 3 figures flew out and continuously exchanged blows in the air. Boundless energy swept out in all directions, creating a terrifying scene. Someone is fighting. 3 people. Why are there 3 people? Didn't they say that only the strongest King Realm cultivators could come out? The scene was in an uproar. Even the ancient existence of the Buddha clan was stunned. Obviously, he didn't expect such a situation. Generally speaking, only the strongest King Realm cultivator could escape from the King Cheng domain and become an invincible king. Why are there 3 people coming out now? Who are they? Many people stared at them. Slowly, the rain of light dissipated and they found out who the 3 people were. It's the Battle God Yuan and Yin Jiuling. The third one is that mysterious demonic genius. What a terrifying aura. The aura of the Battle God Yuan and the mysterious demonic genius have both reached the Divine Emperor realm. They broke through in such a short time. What's even more astonishing is that they joined hands to fight against Yin Jiuling. How can Yin Jiuling be so terrifying? When the three people were discovered, the entire universe was astonished. First of all, the battle god Yuan Wen and Lu Ming had broken through. Then the two of them joined hands to fight against Yin Jiuling. That was even more astonishing. How could Yin Jiuling be so strong? Damn it! Damn it! Shouted the strong cultivators of the Azura clan and the other clans. Their geniuses hadn't come out yet, so they must have died. Boom. At this moment, the aura on Yin Jiuling's body suddenly became violent and rose rapidly. Without the suppression of the King Qing domain, his cultivation level was recovering. First Godly Emperor layer, second Godly Emperor layer, third Godly Emperor layer, fourth Godly Emperor layer. In a flash, Yin Jiuling's cultivation level rose to the fourth Godly Emperor layer. Before, when the King Qing domain had just formed, Yin Jiuling's cultivation level had only reached the third Godly Emperor layer. Now he had broken through to the third Godly Emperor layer. That kind of breakthrough speed was earth-shattering. After recovering his cultivation level, Yin Jiuling's fighting strength had reached the peak. "Die!" shouted Yin Jiuling. He wanted to kill Lu Ming and the battle god Yuan Wen in one fell swoop. "Without the King Qing domain you'll die," shouted the battle god Yuan Wen. A purple golden halberd appeared in his hand. One could see that the end of the battle halberd was missing a corner. However, a terrifying aura erupted from the battle halberd. The violent aura directly split apart the battle god Yuan Wen's shockwave that was rushing over. That was the trump card of the battle god Yuan Wen. It was also his trump card. Whoosh! The purple golden halberd turned into a huge mountain and slashed towards Yin Jiuling. At the same time, Lu Ming took out the Zephyr Bead. A scorching tornado swept towards Yin Jiuling. Chapter 3969. Lu Ming and battle god Yuan Wen used their weapons at the same time. The terrifying power of the two weapons instantly shrouded Yin Jiuling. Yin Jiuling roared and unleashed his full strength. Evil Yin Qi soared to the sky and fought against the two weapons. However, after Lu Ming and the battle god Yuan Wen reached the Divine Emperor realm, the power that they could unleash when controlling the big killing weapon was stronger. After a series of collisions, Yin Jiuling's protective Yin Qi was forcibly broken. His body was cut by the strong wind and was almost cut in half by the purple golden halberd. Yin Jiuling's body was blasted back. Brr! Yin Jiuling roared angrily. The rich sinister aura in the pit converged toward him. His injuries were recovering rapidly. He kept roaring and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. He kept glancing at Lu Ming and the battle god Yuan Wen with his tyrannical eyes. Die! Yin Jiuling roared intermittently, then he turned around and left, turning into a stream of Yin Qi. In a flash, the space was broken and he disappeared in a blink of an eye. His speed was amazing. After all, Lu Ming and the battle god Yuan Wen's cultivation were only at the first level of the Divine Emperor realm. They could only injure Yin Jiuling by relying on the big killer weapon. However, in terms of speed they were far inferior. They could only watch Yin Jiuling escape. "Wait until my cultivation improves, then I will kill you with one hand," battle god Yuan Wen said disdainfully. Then he looked at Lu Ming with a strong battle intent. "Mu Yun, you changed your appearance because you don't want others to know. I won't tell anyone, but our battle is not over yet. We will fight next time." Battle god Yuan Wen transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. Then he turned around and went down the dark pit demon mountain. He had already obtained a wisp of evil Yin Qi, so he didn't need to stay here. Lu Ming smiled and didn't care. Why would he be afraid of others' challenge? To be honest, battle god Yuan Wen was a very good opponent. Lu Ming had never met such an opponent. Having an opponent was a kind of pressure and also a kind of motivation that could promote him to keep moving forward. "If you want to fight, I'm always ready," Lu Ming replied with a voice transmission and then went down the mountain from another direction. The purpose of this trip was finally completed. The ancient secret skill left by the bone demon and a wisp of evil Yin Qi with spirituality. Although the process was quite tortuous, it was a complete success. The next step was to go to the City of Heaven, where the Dreamy Heavenly Palace was located. The Dreamy Heavenly Palace was the real core of the Dreamy Heavenly Palace. It was difficult for outsiders to go there. The Dream Sky City was an incomparably majestic and boundless ancient city. It was suspended in the starry sky of the universe, with the sun, moon, and stars revolving around it. One could see how huge it was. Lu Ming spent several months before he arrived at the Dream Sky City. He could not help marveling at the ancient city from afar. The dreamy heavenly palace was surrounded by the sun, moon, and stars. These sun, moon, and stars actually formed a formation. Once it was attacked, the astral formation would activate and unleash a devastating attack. In addition, the dreamy heavenly palace was shrouded in layers of multicolored light, which looked like a dream. There was only one gate in the dreamy heavenly palace. Lu Ming flew toward the gate. In front of the gate, there was a 300 million mile long avenue that extended all the way to the gate. From afar, one could see countless creatures walking on the avenue. Most of these creatures were in human form, but there were also many who revealed their true form. Some were as small as ants and some were as big as mountains. Fortunately, the avenue was big enough to accommodate these creatures no matter how big they were. "It's really spectacular," Lu Ming exclaimed. When he approached the path, he felt a strong pressure acting on his body. In the dreamy heavenly palace, one couldn't fly, so Lu Ming could only land on the avenue and walk into the dreamy heavenly palace. If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't be able to walk 300 million miles even if they walked for a lifetime. Of course, they weren't ordinary people. Lu Ming took a step forward and moved 100 miles away. His figure was like a ray of light as he walked toward the gate. In fact, the others seemed to be walking, but their speed wasn't slow at all. Therefore it looked normal. Even so, Lu Ming walked for a full day before he walked through the avenue and entered the city gate. Behind the city gate there wasn't any avenue, but a huge platform. The platform was very high, and standing on the platform, one could see the bustling streets and various ancient buildings in the distance. Come, the dream sail to the Aquamoon Heavenly Palace, only 10 Emperor-level divine pills per person. Go to the dream sail to the number 1 auction house in Sky City, 15 Emperor-level divine pills per person. Those who want to register for the Heavenly Soldier competition, go to the registration area, 10 Emperor-level divine pills per person. As soon as Lu Ming stepped onto the platform, he heard shouts and shouts. It turned out that on the platform there were sailboats floating in the air. "So we need to ride these sailboats." Lu Ming was enlightened. Indeed, the Dream Sky City was too big and one couldn't fly. It would take a long time to go from one place to another no matter how fast one was. And this kind of dream sail could fly at an extremely fast speed. Therefore, most people would ride this kind of dream sail. However, the price was too expensive, starting from Emperor-level divine pills. Emperor-level divine pellets were useful for divine emperors. Moreover, there were 10 of them at once. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to afford it. But here one had to ride it even if they didn't want to. If they walked, they would die. Lu Ming stepped forward and came under one of the dream sails. The dream sail was very big, at least 10,000 people could ride it at once. "Brother, you're too big. Can you please shrink a little?" Under the dream sail, a bearded man said to an elephant whose body was as white as jade. This elephant was 10,000 zhang tall, so it was too big to fit into the dream sail. "Okay." The white jade elephant nodded and shrunk into its human form. Then it handed over 10 Emperor-level divine pills and boarded the dream sail. "Little brother, 10 Emperor-level divine pills, go to the registration area of the Heavenly Soldier." Then the bearded middle-aged man stopped Lu Ming. "Here." Lu Ming took out 10 Emperor-level divine pills and gave them to the man. Lu Ming had killed many divine emperors, so he still had some Emperor-level divine pills on him. "Haha, please, I hope you pass the assessment and become a Heavenly Soldier." The burly man with a full beard smiled and let Lu Ming board the dream sail. After boarding the dream sail, Lu Ming found a place to sit down and closed his eyes to rest. Set sail. About 2 hours later, a shout came out, and the dream sail was covered with a layer of white light. With a swoosh, it rushed out 100 times faster than walking. Chapter 3970. Lu Ming stood up and watched from the side of the dream sail. On the dream sail, the scenery of Dream Sky City was unobstructed. He could see that the streets below were crisscrossing, and it was very prosperous. No one was flying in the sky. There were only other dream sails sailing in the sky like giant birds, going back and forth to various parts of Dream Sky City. That's the angel race. And the one full of blood, she is the blood race. The Buddha race. Lu Ming swept his gaze across and saw various clans on the streets below. He even saw many of the top 10 clans. Dream Sky City was indeed the heavenly city of the Dream Sky Heavenly Palace. It gathered the elites of various races in the universe, and many of them permanently settled in Dream Sky City. On the dream sail, many people like Lu Ming had come to Dream Sky City for the first time. They stood on the dream sail and looked around curiously. The dream sail was very fast, but Dream Sky City was just too big. Even with the dream sail's speed, it still took an entire day to reach the registration area for the Divine Soldier. The registration place was in front of a majestic palace. At the moment it was already crowded. There were no less than thousands of people. In front of the palace there were 9 light doors. In front of the doors, some elites in armor were checking and registering. "We've arrived at the registration place. You can disembark," the bearded man said. Everyone nodded and jumped down from the dream sail. They landed in front of the palace, then walked to the 9 light doors and began to line up. Lu Ming also walked to a light door and began to line up. At the same time he looked around. A young man walked up to a few experts in armor and registered their names. Then he took out a storage ring. A strand of baleful yin qi flew out from the storage ring. It was a baleful yin qi that had its own spirituality. One of the armored experts nodded and put away the wisp of baleful yin qi. Then another person took out a jade tablet and handed it to the young man. "Enter the light door and be tested," a burly man in armor said. These armored men were the heavenly soldiers of the heavenly palace. The young man seemed a little nervous and hesitant. In the end he clenched his teeth and stepped into the glowing door. When this person walked into the door of light suddenly emitted a dazzling light. "How dare you? How dare you deceive the heavenly palace? You deserve death," a heavenly soldier shouted. His aura was wild and his killing intent was like a knife. "I'm innocent. The baleful yin qi was indeed obtained by me." The young man's expression changed drastically as he roared. "Presumptuous! How dare you quibble? These 9 light gates were created by the heavenly palace, who was proficient in the art of divination. As long as you step into the light gate, as long as you don't personally obtain the evil yin qi, the light gate can be divined. You've committed a crime upon a crime," a heavenly soldier shouted. Plop. The young man knelt down. His face was deathly pale as he shouted, "Please spare my life. Master, please spare my life. I was confused for a moment. It's my first offense, please spare my life." "The heavenly palace has already informed us, but you still want to deceive the heavenly palace. Unforgivable," shouted the heavenly soldier coldly. Swish. When the young man saw that the heavenly soldier wasn't going to spare him, he turned into a beam of light and ran away. Without a doubt this young man was also a top genius. He had already broken through to the 3rd godly emperor layer. He was extremely strong. He used his full strength and his speed was astonishing. "You want to die?" said a middle-aged heavenly soldier coldly. He raised his spear and threw it at the young man. Whoosh. A spear silhouette streaked across the sky and moved as fast as lightning towards the young man. Shouted the young man furiously. He used all his strength to resist, but it was all in vain. His attacks and defenses couldn't withstand a single attack from the middle-aged heavenly soldier. Slash. The young man's head was pierced through and he died. "Someone come and take him away," said the middle-aged heavenly soldier coldly. Someone immediately came and took the young man's corpse away. How strong! Many people were astonished. That middle-aged heavenly soldier looked ordinary, but he was terrifyingly strong. He was at least at the top of the godly emperor layer. "I heard that when one first becomes a celestial soldier, the celestial palace will bestow rewards. Everyone will reap great benefits and their strength will soar. In addition, by participating in various missions in the celestial soldier, one can obtain large amounts of rewards and rapidly increase one's strength. Indeed, the heavenly palace has the best resources in the universe. No other clan can compete with them. I can't wait." Many people were astonished, but at the same time they were whispering to each other. The heavenly palace had unimaginable resources. If you practiced in the heavenly palace, your cultivation would increase quickly. That was why so many geniuses wanted to join the heavenly palace and become heavenly soldiers. Even the top 10 clans had many geniuses who could become heavenly soldiers. That was because even the top 10 clans did not have as many resources as the heavenly palace. I'll say it one last time. If you didn't get the dark yin qi by yourself but bought it or given it by someone else or even an elder, please leave now. The heavenly palace will not pursue the matter. However, if you're discovered after registration, you'll be sentenced to death," shouted the middle-aged heavenly soldier. Many people were astonished, but no one left. In fact, there were very few people who thought they were lucky. That was because history had already taught them a lesson. No one could deceive the heavenly palace. Those who thought they were lucky and tried to get away with it all ended up in a miserable state. Every time there were very few people who thought they were lucky. Most of the time there was no one. This time one of them was discovered. He was lucky. The registration process continued, and no one was found who tried to get away with it. "Bone Demon, can that gate find out that I have a forbidden body?" Lu Ming secretly asked Bone Demon. A forbidden body was a great enemy of the heavenly palace. If it was discovered, Lu Ming would be in trouble. To be honest, sneaking into the heavenly palace was like entering a tiger's den. Lu Ming was still a little nervous. Although Fei Huang told him that it was fine. Don't worry. A forbidden body can't be seen on the surface. Even the forbidden power can't be seen. On the surface, it's no different from other divine powers. Only those who have come into contact with your taboo energy will be able to sense it. So don't worry, said Bone Demon. Lu Ming nodded and felt slightly relieved. Soon it was Lu Ming's turn. What's your name? Where are you from? Which force are you from? Asked a heavenly soldier. Mu Yun from the Fengdu Sword sect of the Iron Sea Star Zone, replied Lu Ming. He's Mu Yun? When the surrounding people heard Lu Ming's name, they were all shocked and looked at Lu Ming curiously. Because of Ling Yue, Lu Ming could be said to have become a famous person in the universe. Chapter 3971. Many people were secretly sizing up Lu Ming, especially some of the young geniuses. Their eyes were filled with intense hostility. Ling Yue was one of the 20 Pearls of the universe and the princess of the Elf clan. There were many people pursuing her, including countless divine emperor realm geniuses. And now the relationship between Lu Ming and Ling Yue had been made public. Who knew how many people wanted to make a move against him? Lu Ming looked down as if he didn't care. There was nothing he could do. Ever since he had Ling Yue as his fiancée, he had expected this to happen. However, Lu Ming had never been afraid of challenges from others. If he really couldn't avoid it, then so be it. He would just treat it as a form of training. However, the heavenly soldier was expressionless, as if he had never heard of Lu Ming's name. He took out a jade tablet and registered it. I hope the information you said is true. You should know that the heavenly palace will thoroughly investigate your background. The heavenly soldier reminded him. Of course. Lu Ming nodded. This was the reason why he joined the Fengdu Sword sect. Where's the spiritual baleful Yin Qi? Take it out. Another heavenly soldier said. Lu Ming took out the baleful Yin Qi. The other party checked it for a moment and kept it. Then the heavenly soldier from before handed the jade tablet to Lu Ming. Enter the gate of light. Only by passing through the gate of light can you proceed to the next round of the examination. The heavenly soldier said. Lu Ming took the jade token and stepped into the door of light. There was no reaction from the door of light. Since there was no reaction, he had passed. You've registered successfully. Come with me. Behind the gate of light, another heavenly soldier said to Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded and followed the heavenly soldier into the palace. After passing through the palace, there was a huge plaza behind it. The plaza was huge. At this moment there were already a lot of people in the plaza. You've only registered successfully. If you want to become a heavenly soldier, you still need to go through a few rounds of assessment. I don't know what the specific assessment is yet. Just wait here. When it's time for your assessment, someone will naturally call you. The heavenly soldier said. Thank you. Lu Ming cupped his fist. The celestial soldier nodded and left. Lu Ming found a random place to sit down and wait. Not long after, an old man in a snow-white robe and a jade crown flew over. The heavenly official is here. Looks like someone else has a mission. Someone whispered. Many people looked at the sky official. Every time the sky official came, he would announce a few people to take part in the examination. Not everyone would participate in the examination together. Furthermore, the contents of the examination would be different for many people. Meng Jia of the Iron Armor clan, Shen Fei of the Feiyuan clan. The 12 of you follow me to participate in the assessment. Sky official rode. Immediately 12 people stepped forward. The majority of these 12 people were young, but there were also a few middle-aged burly men or old men. The sky official waved his hand, and a beam of light swept up the 12 people and left. In Dream Sky City, the heavenly officials and heavenly soldiers were naturally able to fly. If they couldn't fly, how could they carry out their mission? The sky official took 12 people away. Not long after, another heavenly official arrived and took away 12 people. In this way, another heavenly official would come and take away a group of people. Not all 12 people were taken away. Sometimes 15 people were taken away, sometimes over 100. The number was uncertain. Lu Ming roughly understood that the heavenly palace's examination was divided into many missions. Each group of people would complete one mission. Lu Ming waited patiently. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. The people in the square came and went and came again. Finally, Iron Sea Star Zone's Fengdu Sword Sect's Mu Yun, Xing Race's Zi Meng. The 12 of you follow me to complete the examination. A white-haired heavenly official announced. It's finally my turn. Lu Ming smiled and stepped forward. 11 other people also stepped forward. The white-haired heavenly official waved his hand, and a beam of energy swept up Lu Ming's group and took them in a certain direction. On the way, Lu Ming's group of 12 people looked at each other. Among them, there were 7 young people who looked like they were in their 20s. There were men and women. Among the other 5, there were 3 middle-aged men and 2 old men. Their cultivation levels aren't low. Lu Ming looked at them and realized that their cultivation levels were very high. Apart from him, the weakest one had the strength of the 3rd godly emperor layer. The strongest one was an old man. He didn't release his chi, so he couldn't guess. But he had to have the strength of the 6th godly emperor layer. He had the lowest cultivation level, the 1st godly emperor layer. The others glanced at Lu Ming, but they just glanced at him and didn't pay him any attention. Even though Mu Yun was famous in the universe, the real strong cultivators didn't take him seriously. After all, back then Lu Ming had only been a quasi-emperor layer cultivator. Now, it seemed that even though Lu Ming had broken through to the godly emperor layer, he had just broken through to the 1st godly emperor layer. They weren't ordinary people, so they didn't take a cultivator of the 1st godly emperor layer seriously. They glanced at each other and tried to remember each other's faces. After a short time, they arrived in front of a wormhole. They stepped into the wormhole, and in the next moment they arrived on a planet with life. "Alright, now I'll announce your tasks," said the sky official. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts and began to listen attentively. This is the group of Flying Cloud Star Area. The group of Flying Cloud Star Area is controlled by 2 influential groups, the Flying Star Sect and the Moon Cloud Pavilion. However, the Heavenly Palace has found out that the Flying Star Sect doesn't respect the Heavenly Palace. They might be in contact with rebels. Therefore, your task is to help the Moon Cloud Pavilion destroy the Flying Star Sect, said the sky official. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Everybody was astonished. Their task was to destroy a powerful influential group of the universe. What made them even more confused was that the reason for destroying the Flying Star Sect was that they didn't respect the Heavenly Palace and were in contact with rebels. What was a rebel? Wasn't the primitive universe under the control of the Heavenly Palace? It was the era of the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace was supreme. How could there be rebels? It seemed like there were many secrets in the primitive universe. Lu Ming's eyes flashed and thoughts flashed across his mind. He knew some secrets. The Heavenly Palace was not without enemies such as the Life Spirit Heavenly Court, the Dragon Clan, and especially the family of Xian Yanqing's previous life, the Flying Phoenix Clan, and others seemed to be enemies. Who was the rebel the sky official was talking about? Was it the Tang clan that supported Xian Yanqing? Or was it someone else? Master Sky Official, how strong is the Flying Star Sect? What's the cultivation level of their strongest cultivator? Asked an old man respectfully. I know you want to ask. The Flying Star Sect is quite strong. The Patriarch is a cultivator of the 9th godly emperor layer. Below him, there are more than a dozen cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer, said the sky official. Chapter 3972. The sky official's words caused everyone to pale. There are cultivators of the 9th godly emperor layer. There are more than a dozen cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer, shouted a few people. The others pulled long faces. How could they kill a cultivator of the 8th or 9th godly emperor layer? How could they kill him? Lu Ming was the only one who looked calm. I didn't ask you to go to the Flying Star Sect and destroy them. I asked you to help the Yunhua Pavilion destroy the Flying Star Sect. The Yunhua Pavilion isn't much weaker than the Flying Star Sect. They also have cultivators of the 9th godly emperor layer, said the Tian official. Only then did everyone relax. The Yunhua Pavilion also had cultivators of the 9th godly emperor layer. You have 1 year. You must complete the mission within 1 year. Also, only 2 of the 12 of you can pass the test. The 2 of you who have contributed the most and performed the best will pass the test. The rest will be eliminated, said the Tian official. Everybody's expression changed drastically. The 12 of them had to destroy the Flying Star Sect within 1 year. Even if they managed to destroy the Flying Star Sect, only the 2 who had contributed the most would be able to finish the task. That way the task would be much more difficult. Not only did they have to destroy the Flying Star Sect, but they also had to compete with each other. The 12 of them glanced at each other. Some of them looked murderous. Nobody knew what they were thinking. Alright, I'll take you to the Yunhua Pavilion. Heavenly Official Path then led Lu Ming and the 12 of them to break the void and leave. The Sky Official's cultivation base was terrifyingly profound, surpassing the God Emperor level at the very least. With the 12 of them he was able to break through the void. Before long they arrived at an enormous planet. As soon as they arrived, a group of people flew out to welcome them. Welcome, emissaries from the heavenly palace. A middle-aged man leading a group of people bowed and saluted. That middle-aged man's chi was extremely powerful. He was the leader of the Yunue Pavilion, a cultivator of the 9th godly emperor layer. However, that cultivator of the 9th godly emperor layer was extremely respectful in front of the sky official, like a little puppy. The Tian official said expressionlessly, "Take these 12 people with you. They'll help you destroy the Flying Star sect." Roger. The pavilion master of the Pavilion of Clouds and Rain said respectfully. The sky official nodded. He turned around and took a step forward. The void rippled and his figure disappeared. "Everyone please follow me and stay here. We'll discuss the matter of dealing with the Flying Star sect another day." Of course he was not as respectful as he was to the sky official, but he was still polite. Everyone followed the Yunue Pavilion master and the others into the planet below. They arrived at a palace and stayed there temporarily. Yunue Pavilion in the Great Meeting Hall. The pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion and some other upper echelons of the Yunue Pavilion were gathered together for a meeting. Leader, the Heavenly Palace only sent 12 people. The strongest one among them only has the strength of the 7th godly emperor layer. Most of them have the strength of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and even the 1st godly emperor layer. How could they destroy the Flying Star sect? Indeed, I don't think we can defeat a cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer. We've been fighting against the Flying Star sect for a while now, and we're at a disadvantage. Many people in the Yunue Pavilion were complaining. "Don't underestimate those people," said the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. Everybody quieted down. "The Heavenly Palace is recruiting celestial soldiers now. Those people must have signed up for the exam," said the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. "Leader, you mean there are some incredible geniuses among them?" asked someone. "That's right. Anyone who signs up for the Heavenly Soldier assessment is not weak. Even the older ones have strong combat strength. Cultivation is not the only criterion. Since the Heavenly Palace sent them here, they must think that there is someone who can help us destroy the Flying Star sect. Otherwise they would not have sent them here. The Heavenly Palace must have paid special attention to the people they send. Don't underestimate any of those 12 people," said the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. Yes. Everybody nodded. In the Yunue Pavilion, Lu Ming took out some weapons and gave them to Qiu Qiu. Qiu Qiu had a huge appetite. Every once in a while, it would eat a batch of weapons or high-level metal materials. After feeding Qiu Qiu, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and focused on cultivating. He had just broken through to the Divine Emperor realm. He had to make the best use of his time to stabilize his cultivation. The day passed quickly. On the second day, the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion summoned them for a meeting. "Everyone, the strength of the Yunue Pavilion and the Flying Star sect are about the same. In terms of high-end combat strength, we are slightly weaker than them. However, I believe that with everyone's help, we will be able to destroy the Flying Star sect very quickly," said the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. Everybody nodded. They knew that the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion was just being polite. As expected, the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion continued. "The main battlefield between the Yunue Pavilion and the Flying Star sect will be the Flying Cloud Continent. That is a continent floating in the void. However, now is not the time for a decisive battle. We need to take over a few important planets of the Flying Star sect. These places all have wormholes. Once we take over these places, the Flying Star sect's flexibility will be greatly reduced." "What do you want us to do, Pavilion Master?" asked an old man from the group of 12. He had the strength of the 7th godly emperor layer. He was the strongest cultivator among Lu Ming's group. "Alright, I will split you up. You will go to those important places and cooperate with the Yunue Pavilion. We will take those places," said the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. Everybody nodded. They had no objections. Very quickly, the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion divided them into 6 groups of 2 and they went to 6 different places. Lu Ming and a young man in blue clothes were in the same group. The young man glanced at Lu Ming indifferently. He didn't take Lu Ming seriously. On the contrary, he was happy. Lu Ming was in the same group as him, so Lu Ming couldn't compete with him. He had heard of Mu Yun. Even though Mu Yun was a terrifying cultivator, he wasn't weak either. He had already broken through to the top of the 4th godly emperor layer. He could fight against ordinary cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer. Lu Ming only had the strength of the 1st godly emperor layer, so he didn't take him seriously. After splitting up, there were naturally people who would lead them out. Lu Ming and the others were going to a place called Kuandong Planet. The Yunhua Pavilion had an army there. Lu Ming and the young man in blue clothes went through a wormhole and arrived on Kuandong planet. On the way, Lu Ming learned the young man's name. His name was Su Yi and he was from the Heavenly Eagles clan. The Heavenly Eagles clan was ranked 137th in the list of the 10,000 clans of ancient desolation. Su Yi was also a famous genius of the Heavenly Eagles clan. He was a godly emperor and could fight against cultivators of higher cultivation levels. He was extremely talented. Chapter 3973. As soon as Lu Ming and Su Yi arrived at Kuandong planet, they saw a general in armor leading an army to welcome them. The two of them were welcomed into a military camp. "Brother Su, please have a seat." The general in armor was called Brother Hao. He was very polite to Su Yi and led him to the seat of honor. However, he was much colder to Lu Ming. Su Yi had the strength of the top of the fourth godly emperor layer, and he looked very young. He was definitely a genius. Such a person would be very beneficial to Kuandong planet. However, Lu Ming was only at the first level of the divine emperor realm. In their opinion, he was dispensable. He would not be of any help to the battle on Kuandong planet. He didn't understand why the Heavenly Palace had sent a cultivator of the first godly emperor layer to Kuandong planet. He was just a hindrance. Of course, he could only suppress these doubts and dissatisfaction in his heart. He did not dare to voice them out. However, he could not help but express his dissatisfaction through his actions. For example, he was not very enthusiastic towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming noticed that, but he didn't take it to heart. He just sat down and drank. "Brother Hao, what's the situation on Kuandong planet?" Su Yi casually sat at the head of the table and asked. Then a beautiful maid poured wine for him. The east side of Kuandong planet is occupied by the Yunhua Pavilion and the west side is occupied by the Fei Xing sect. But the most important wormhole is in the west. We've attacked it a few times but we haven't been able to take it," said Brother Hao. "What kind of strong cultivators do they have?" asked Su Yi. "They have 2 cultivators of the top of the 5th godly emperor layer. They're very strong. We only have 2 cultivators of the top of the 5th godly emperor layer. We don't have the advantage. The other strong cultivators are fighting everywhere, especially in Feiyun. It's difficult to send them out," said Brother Hao. "Only the top of the 5th godly emperor layer? That's easy." After Su Yi heard this, he revealed a confident expression. Brother Hao's eyes twinkled. "Do you have a solution?" "Of course, if they only have the strength of the 5th godly emperor layer, I'm strong enough to fight against them," Su Yi said proudly. Brother Hao was amazed and said, "Prince Su Yi only has the strength of the 4th godly emperor layer, but he can compete with cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer. I wouldn't dare. Of course that's not enough. I have a secret treasure that can injure cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer. With that, I can kill cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer as easily as killing chickens." Su Yi said he didn't dare, but he looked very proud of himself. At the same time, he said he had a trump card which could only be used once. It could injure cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer. Hearing that, the smile on Brother Hao's face grew wider. At the side, the others also flattered Su Yi. From beginning to end, they had neglected Lu Ming. A cultivator of the 1st godly emperor layer couldn't do anything. Besides, he couldn't become a celestial soldier, so why should they care? It's not the right time to attack. We'll wait for the Pavilion Master's order. As soon as the Pavilion Master gives the order, we'll immediately launch an attack and take down the entire Kuandong planet in one fell swoop," Brother Hao said. Su Yi nodded and ended the meeting. Lu Ming didn't say anything. He just sat there and slowly sipped his wine. To be honest, the wine was really good. Lu Ming couldn't help but drink a few more cups. Brother Hao and the others disdained Lu Ming even more. They thought that Lu Ming knew that he was weak, so he didn't say anything. After the meeting, Lu Ming went back to his room and sat down cross-legged. A bone pearl appeared in his hand. That bone pearl was the container that Guemo used to seal the ancient secret skills and other secret skills of the demon path. Before, Lu Ming was in a hurry, so he didn't have time to open it. Now he had time to open it. According to Gumo's instructions, Lu Ming used a special talisman to inject it into the bone pearl. After a short time, the bone pearl emitted dazzling lights. Then talismans flew out of it. There were at least a few hundred talismans. Most of them were black talismans, but one of them was black gold in color. It was very eye-catching. Lu Ming grabbed the black gold jade talisman with his hand and sank his spiritual sense into it. One of the 3,000 ancient secret skills, the Great Demonic Sword Technique. Lu Ming whispered, but to be honest he was a little disappointed. The Great Demonic Sword Technique was also an offensive secret skill. However, Lu Ming already had the Great Shattering Technique and the Great God Wind Technique. Another one wouldn't be of much help to him. However, he still had to cultivate. No matter what kind of secret skill it was, Lu Ming had to cultivate it. This was to lay the foundation for his future. However, it wasn't easy to cultivate the ancient secret skill. Lu Ming planned to find a chance to cultivate it later. Lu Ming memorized the Great Demonic Sword Technique and then looked at the other secret skills. There were more than 300 demon secret skills. Moreover, Lu Ming hadn't cultivated many demon secret skills before. Therefore, there were 300 demon secret skills that Lu Ming hadn't cultivated before. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He collected all of them and would cultivate them when he had time. After collecting them, Lu Ming took out some elvenwood hearts and began to absorb them to strengthen his foundation. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. After a month of cultivation, Lu Ming's cultivation level was completely stabilized. He had completely stabilized at the first godly emperor layer. Compared to when I just broke through, my strength has increased by 50%. Lu Ming smiled. When he fought against Yin Jiuling in the Dark Pit Demon Mountain, he had just broken through and his strength hadn't reached the peak yet. Now his cultivation level had completely stabilized and his strength had reached the peak. He was 50% stronger than when he was in the Dark Pit Demon Mountain. Now he was confident that he wouldn't be so embarrassed if he fought against Yin Jiuling again. He alone was enough to fight against him. He didn't need to team up with fighting God Yuanwen. After stabilizing his cultivation level, Lu Ming planned to start cultivating the demon secret skills. However, at this time, Lu Ming received news from Brother Hao that they were about to launch an attack. He could only cultivate the secret skills later. Lu Ming left his residence and went to the barracks with Su Yi to set off with the army. This time, we have the help of the emissary of the Heavenly Palace. We will definitely destroy the Flying Star sect. Now let's go and take Kuandong Star. Brother Hao shouted. Victory! At least 100,000 soldiers shouted. Swoosh! The 100,000 soldiers were all experts. They turned into rainbow lights and flew to the west of Kuandong Star. It was a very spectacular sight. They were very fast and soon arrived at the west of Kuandong Star. However, there was a strong divine light flickering in front of them, illuminating the starry sky. In front of them there was a large army blocking their way. This army was naturally the army of the Flying Star sect. They had already known that the Yunue Pavilion was about to attack and had made defensive preparations in advance. Chapter 3974. The Flying Star sect's army was lined up neatly, blotting out the sky and blotting out the earth. There were at least 100,000 of them. The two armies hadn't even collided yet, but their terrifying chi had already collided. Boom. The atmosphere shook violently as a terrifying crack appeared in the sky. It looked like a ferocious mouth had appeared in the sky. Die. Destroy the Flying Star sect! Shouted Brother Hao furiously. He took the lead and charged towards the Flying Star sect's army. Die! Shouted the Yunue Pavilion's army. All sorts of godly lights dazzled as all sorts of weapons rose up in the air. In the end, they turned into a terrifying force and moved towards the Flying Star sect's army. However, the Flying Star sect's army also released all sorts of attacks and collided with the Yunue Pavilion's army. After a series of explosions, the distance between the two armies was reduced. Horrible shrieks filled the air as the two armies collided. At least a few hundred people were killed. Blood dyed the sky red. Die. There was a long howl that was exceptionally sharp and bright. Sui was surrounded by dazzling godly lights. In front of him, 3 swords were floating. Those 3 swords looked like the feathers of an eagle. Actually, they were made from the feathers of an extremely strong cultivator of the Heavenly Eagle clan. They were extremely sharp. The illusory figure brushed past the 3 divine swords and continued its killing spree. Every time it flickered, a few people would be pierced by the divine swords or split into 2 halves. Su-Yi moved forwards and killed dozens of strong cultivators of the Flying Star sect. No matter if they were cultivators of the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd godly emperor layer, they were all killed instantly. Of course, the strong cultivators of the Flying Star sect noticed him. Little boy, die! Shouted a cultivator of the 4th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect. He stared at Su-Yi and attacked him. That person was surrounded by starlight. He waved his hand and starlight turned into a sword which descended from the sky and pierced towards Su-Yi's head. You want to die? Su-Yi smiled coldly. He waved his sword and the starlight battle sword broke apart. Then, his 3 swords shot out and appeared in front of the cultivator of the 4th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect. The cultivator of the Flying Star sect was astonished. He hastily used all sorts of skills to block the attack, but it was useless. Su Yi's battle sword directly pierced through all of his defenses, piercing 3 transparent holes in his dantian, chest and glabella. The cultivator of the 4th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect had died instantly. How strong! When the people of the Yunue Pavilion saw how strong Su Yi was, instantly killing people of the same level as him, their morale soared. Ao roared and charged at Su Yi. Brother Hao's chi, Al? Su Yi's battle prowess was indeed strong. It was not wrong to say that he could fight those above his level. At this moment, Lu Ming's performance was neither fast nor slow. He charged forward with the army and did not stand out. Su Yi was in high spirits as he charged towards Brother Hao. At that moment, Brother Hao was fighting against a general of the top of the 5th godly emperor layer. Su Yi brushed past the 3 swords and fiercely slashed at the general. The general of the Flying Star sect was wielding a battle saber that glittered with starlight. With a loud roar, he swung his saber at Su Yi's 3 divine swords. Clang, clang. A violent collision broke out and energy waves spread in all directions. The Flying Star sect's general and Su Yi were forced to retreat. They were evenly matched. The people from the Yunue Pavilion and the Flying Star sect were all shocked. In the Divine Emperor realm, the gap between each level was huge. It was extremely difficult to fight against someone of a higher level. But Su Yi, with the strength of the 4th godly emperor layer, was able to fight against a general of the top of the 5th godly emperor layer. They had never seen such a genius before. They were all dumbfounded. Brother Hao was the first to react. He was overjoyed. With a roar, he charged toward the general of the Flying Star sect. Whoosh, whoosh. Su Yi also joined forces with Brother Hao. Suddenly, the Flying Star sect's general was forced to retreat again and again. He only had the strength to defend himself and was unable to fight back. The other cultivator of the 5th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect was fighting against a cultivator of the 5th godly emperor layer from the Yunue Pavilion. The Flying Star sect was in a bad situation. Boom. At that moment, a tall and sturdy man wearing armor from the Flying Star sect suddenly had the strength of the 4th godly emperor layer. He suddenly had the strength of the 5th godly emperor layer. He was holding a spear and it moved like a bolt of lightning. He was fighting against a cultivator of the 4th godly emperor layer from the Yunue Pavilion. He was startled and hastily dodged. But in the godly emperor layer, the difference of 1 godly emperor layer was overwhelming. The cultivator of the 4th godly emperor layer from the Yunue Pavilion was instantly killed. Then he turned into a beam of light and moved towards Su Yi. Su Yi had no choice but to give up on the general of the Flying Star sect and fight against him. How come you have a cultivator of the 5th godly emperor layer? Brother Hao was astonished. The Flying Star sect and the Yunue Pavilion were fighting on the battlefield. It was difficult for them to send out strong cultivators. How come they suddenly had a cultivator of the 5th godly emperor layer? Could it be that something had happened on the battlefield? They're from the Feiyun continent, of course. They're waiting for the big fish. Smiled the general of the Flying Star sect coldly. Boom. At that moment, a powerful chi rose up in the air from the Flying Star sect. Surprisingly, another cultivator of the 5th godly emperor layer appeared and threw himself at Su Yi. It's over. At that moment, the faces of the Yunue Pavilion's army turned deathly pale. The enemy had hidden so many strong cultivators in their army. They had 2 more cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer than they had expected. That kind of fighting strength was enough to turn the situation around. Were the Yunue Pavilion going to suffer a crushing defeat? You want to die. At that moment Su Yi coldly shouted. His eyes revealed a gloomy expression. At the same time 2 black beads appeared in his hand. Within the 2 black beads were strands of lightning flickering. I didn't want to use them, but since you want to die, I'll help you, said Su Yi icily. Then he threw the 2 pearls at them. Boom boom. The 2 pearls exploded and released lightning. In a flash, the 2 cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer were engulfed by the lightning. Around them, some other strong cultivators were also engulfed by the lightning. They didn't even have time to scream before they turned into ashes. When the lightning disappeared, 2 silhouettes were blown away. Their clothes were tattered and their chi was extremely weak. It was the 2 cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect. At that moment they were severely injured and their chi was extremely weak. When Brother Hao and the others saw that, they were extremely happy. Su Yi had said that he had a weapon that could injure cultivators of the top of the 5th godly emperor layer. Chapter 3975. Die. shouted Su Yi furiously after injuring the two cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer. Then, he threw himself at the two cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer. Help! Shouted the two cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer. No one can save you, smiled Su Yi coldly. Little boy, you want to die. As soon as Su Yi finished his sentence, a loud roar could be heard coming from the Flying Star sect. Following this, several terrifying auras rose into the sky. There were a total of 3 auras and they were extremely terrifying. As soon as the auras appeared, a few beams of divine light shot towards Su Yi. That's sixth godly emperor layer. Su Yi's face turned pale with fright. He hastily made his 3 swords fly out and collide with the 3 beams of godly light. Although the 3 divine lights were blocked, Su Yi's 3 divine swords were also beaten until they lost their luster. They flew out and no one knew where they flew to. Swoosh, swoosh. 3 tall and sturdy silhouettes appeared from the Flying Star sect. They were surrounded by starlight. Sixth godly emperor layer, shouted Brother Hao furiously. Not only were there cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer in the enemy's camp, but there were also cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer. Was over. At that moment they could only put their hopes on Su Yi. They hoped that he could create a miracle and save the situation. Otherwise, the Yunue Pavilion's army would be in danger. Su Yi pulled a long face when he saw the 3 cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer coming towards him. He clenched his teeth and took out 5 black orbs from his storage ring. He only had 7 of those Tai Chi lightning pearls. He had already used 2 of them, so he only had 5 left. He hoped he could injure the cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect. He waved his hand and threw the 5 pearls at them. 5 explosions sounded as the 5 pearls exploded. The 3 cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer and a few hundred people from the Flying Star sect were trapped inside, including the 2 cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer who had been seriously injured. Lightning filled the air and the people from the Flying Star sect who were trapped inside were turned into ashes. However, 3 figures managed to rush out of the range of the lightning. It was the 3 cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer. Their godly lights were dim and some parts of their bodies were burnt. They had been injured by the Tai Chi lightning pearl. However, his injuries were not serious. The Tai Chi lightning pearl could injure cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer, but it couldn't harm cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer. However, apart from the cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer, the cultivators of the Flying Star sect, including the 2 cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer, were all dead. The 3 cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer were furious. Kill that brat. That kid is dead for sure. Kill. The 3 cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer were furious and threw themselves at Su Yi. Su Yi's expression changed drastically, revealing a look of fear as he turned around and ran. He was strong enough to fight against cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer, but against cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer, he would die instantly, let alone 3 cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer. A pair of wings extended from his back, flapping wildly as he fled for his life. However, he wasn't as fast as the cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer. They were getting closer and closer to him. Stop them. I order you to stop them. Su Yi charged into the Yunue Pavilion's army and roared at the Yunue Pavilion. But the people of the Yunue Pavilion didn't dare stop the cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer. Therefore the people of the Yunue Pavilion moved to the sides. Fuck! Shouted Su Yi furiously. His hands turned into talons and he grabbed a few people of the Yunue Pavilion and threw them at the 3 cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect. His goal was to delay them so that he could escape. The people of the Yunue Pavilion who were thrown away gave horrible shrieks as the 3 cultivators of the Flying Star sect smashed them into pieces. Su Yi kept throwing people of the Yunue Pavilion at the 3 cultivators of the Flying Star sect. In the blink of an eye, over 100 people had been thrown away. They all died at the hands of the 3 cultivators of the Flying Star sect. What's going on? Brother Hao and the others pulled long faces. The favorable impression that Su Yi had created for him was now gone. In order to survive, he had sacrificed his own teammates. How shameless. At that moment, they didn't have a good impression of Su Yi anymore. Everywhere Su Yi went, the people of the Yunue Pavilion ran away. Of course, there was one person who didn't run away, Lu Ming. Lu Ming had been following the army the whole time. He hadn't done anything special. He didn't like to show off. Since Su Yi wanted to show off, Lu Ming didn't mind. At that moment, Su Yi threw himself at Lu Ming ferociously. He shouted furiously, "Little boy, go and stop them." Even if you die, you have to stop them. At the same time, he grabbed Lu Ming's shoulder with his talons and threw him back. He wanted to throw Lu Ming towards the 3 cultivators of the Flying Star sect. But he didn't move. Sui had the impression he was grabbing a planet. He couldn't throw him away. On the contrary, because he was using too much strength, his arm almost broke. Piss off, little boy. Sui roared again and unleashed all his strength, wanting to throw Lu Ming out. However, he still did not move an inch. Sui was dumbstruck. He looked at Lu Ming incredulously. Lu Ming was looking at him coldly. If you hadn't provoked me, I wouldn't have bothered with you. But since you provoked me, I have no choice but to help you, said Lu Ming coldly. He stretched out his hand and put it on Su Yi's face. His hand shook violently and Su Yi's body was blown away towards the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect. Ah! Su Yi screamed in horror. He wanted to stabilize his body, but he realized that he could not do so at all. Lu Ming's outburst of power was too strong. How could a cultivator of the 1st godly emperor layer be that strong? Die. At that moment, the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect arrived and attacked Su Yi. Su Yi gave a horrible shriek and then his body and soul were destroyed. That little boy is evil. Kill him first. After killing Su Yi, one of the cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect looked at Lu Ming. He used starlight to appear in front of Lu Ming and threw a punch at Lu Ming. Boom. Lu Ming was also very direct. He also threw a punch at the other party's fist. He had just broken through to the godly emperor layer, so he wanted to see how strong he was. Rumbling sounds spread in all directions. Then the starlight broke apart and a silhouette was blown away. It was the cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect. His fist was dripping with blood. His bones had been broken by Lu Ming's punch. Chapter 3976. Everybody was dumbstruck when they saw that. Especially the people of the Yunue Pavilion, such as Brother Hao and the others. How is that possible? Brother Hao and the others' eyes were wide open. Lu Ming only had the strength of the 1st godly emperor layer, but he had defeated a cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer in one punch, and he had even injured him. Were they hallucinating? Or were they dreaming? At the same time, the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect were also astonished. A cultivator of the 1st godly emperor layer had injured a cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer in one punch. They had never heard of such a thing. That little boy is evil. Let's join hands and kill him, said the cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer who had been injured. Godly light surrounded him again. Die, shouted the other 2 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. The 3 of them joined hands and charged towards Lu Ming. Come. Lu Ming's eyes were twinkling. He looked excited. He jumped forwards and moved like a mountain towards his opponents. He also used his full strength. His battle formula had increased his fighting strength 6-fold. As Lu Ming continued practicing cultivation, the success rate of his battle formula increasing his fighting strength 6-fold was increasing. Now, Lu Ming's success rate of increasing his fighting strength 6-fold was less than 10%. Boom. The 4 cultivators collided. In the blink of an eye, they had already exchanged a dozen attacks. Terrifying chi rolled in all directions. Nobody could stand there anymore. Even cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer would be killed instantly if they got too close to the chi. Everyone was dumbfounded. Especially Brother Hao and the others. Their mouths were wide open, unable to close. Lu Ming had the strength of the 1st godly emperor layer, and surprisingly, he could fight against 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer at the same time. That was 5 godly emperors. Before, when Sui had broken through 1 godly emperor layer, they had been astonished. But now he had broken through 5 godly emperors. They were astonished. It turned out that this was a true monstrous genius. That was what all the members of the Yunue Pavilion were thinking. They all knew that they had made a mistake in their judgment and looked down on others. Previously he had thought that Sui was a king and Lu Ming was a bronze. It was proven that Lu Ming was the king while Sui was the bronze. After a dozen more attacks, the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect were pushed back. They all pulled long faces and blood splashed out of their mouths. With the 3 of them joining forces, they were actually not Lu Ming's match and fell into a disadvantage. The shock the 3 of them felt was indescribable. Is this my current combat strength? Lu Ming muttered. He was very satisfied with his current combat strength. He didn't need to use other weapons, he could kill cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer on his own. Yes, he was that terrifying now. It could kill enemies that were 5 levels higher. Yin Jiuling, as a Universe Genius List candidate, was able to fight across 4 levels. Lu Ming was much stronger than Yin Jiuling. This was the terror of a forbidden body. In the vast universe there were countless geniuses. This was the pinnacle. "It's time to end this," whispered Lu Ming. At the same time, 4 stone pearls flew out of his wrist. They were gravity pearls. When he was a quasi-emperor, Lu Ming could only control 3 gravity pearls. After breaking through to the godly emperor layer, Lu Ming could control 4 gravity pearls. The gravity created by 4 gravity pearls was 10 times stronger than 3 gravity pearls. Bzzz. A terrifying gravity surrounded the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. The 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect were astonished. "Oh no, run. Retreat." The 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect retreated without the slightest hesitation. They knew that when Lu Ming hadn't used such a treasure, they couldn't compete with him. Now that Lu Ming had used such a treasure, they definitely couldn't compete with him. They would definitely die. But they were surrounded by the gravity pearls. They were much slower. Lu Ming's silhouette flickered. He caught up with one of them and attacked him furiously. Even if the other 2 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer wanted to help, they wouldn't have time. The cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer gave a horrible shriek. Half of his body exploded from Lu Ming's attack. He tried to run away, but it was useless. Boom. A terrifying and destructive chi rolled out. The cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer gave a horrible shriek as his body exploded. He had been killed by Lu Ming. After killing him, Lu Ming moved on to another cultivator. With the help of the gravity pearls, Lu Ming had the absolute advantage. The other 2 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer tried their best, but it was useless. One after the other they were killed by Lu Ming. Run. After the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer were killed, the Yunue Pavilion's army lost their minds and started running away. Destroy the Flying Star sect. Brother Hao and the others finally came back to their senses. They shouted furiously and chased after Lu Ming. Lu Ming stepped out. In a few flashes he dashed into the army of the Flying Star sect. Every time he attacked, a cultivator at the 3rd level of the Divine Emperor realm would be killed. Lu Ming attacked cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer and above. Lu Ming didn't bother attacking cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer and below. That way he could turn the tide of the battle. Lu Ming killed cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer and above. The Flying Star sect's army couldn't fight against the Yunue Pavilion's army anymore. They kept chasing after Lu Ming. After a few hours, almost 60% of the Flying Star sect's army had been killed. A few managed to escape. The entire planet Kuandong was under the control of the Yunue Pavilion, including the wormhole. They had won the battle. In the army camp, Brother Hao and the others were extremely respectful in front of Lu Ming. Their heads were almost touching their stomachs. Prince Mu Yun is really a peerless genius. He has the demeanor of a legendary king. Today was an eye-opener for me. If I hadn't seen him, I wouldn't have believed that such a peerless genius like Prince Mu Yun existed. Come, let's toast to Prince Mu Yun. Brother Hao and the rest flattered Lu Ming, trying their best to get into his good books. In their opinion, such an incredible genius like Lu Ming would definitely join the Heavenly Palace. In the future, he would even be a high-ranking member of the Heavenly Palace and become an overlord. Naturally, they had to curry favor with him. Everyone, you're welcome. Lu Ming's face was calm. He raised his glass and replied indifferently. After 3 rounds of drinking, Lu Ming said goodbye. Everyone, the mission on planet Kuandong has been completed. I will now return to the headquarters of the Yunue Pavilion and wait for the next battle. With that, Lu Ming got up and left. After a while, Lu Ming returned to the headquarters of the Yunue Pavilion. Chapter 3977. When he returned to the headquarters of the Yunue Pavilion, Lu Ming found that the other participants had all returned. They had all completed their tasks and were ready to head to the Feiyun continent to fight against the Flying Star sect. However, there were fewer people. There were 12 of them in total. Now there were only 8 people left, including Lu Ming. When the others saw that Lu Ming had returned alone, they were surprised. They were surprised that Lu Ming, who was only at the first Divine Emperor realm, had returned instead of Su Yi, who was stronger than them. However, no one asked about it. No one knew what they were thinking. The leader of the Yunue Pavilion decided to head to the Feiyun continent in 3 days to fight against the Flying Star sect and destroy them. The moonlight was like water and the stars were twinkling. It was late at night. In the room, Lu Ming, who was cultivating, suddenly opened his eyes. There was a dazzling glow in his eyes. There were streams of blood in his room. They seeped into the room from the corners of the room and rushed toward Lu Ming as if they were alive. Finally, someone can't wait any longer? Lu Ming whispered. He knew that the 12 of them would kill each other. Out of the 12 people, only the 2 with the highest contributions would pass the test. How could they ensure that they had contributed the most? Of course, the others were all dead. That was the safest way. Therefore, there were only 8 people left. However, it was obviously not enough. There were too many people and someone was going to attack Lu Ming. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, the blood turned into blood-red arrows and shot toward Lu Ming. Umph. Lu Ming snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, his palm force burst forth, spreading out like water ripples. All of the blood-colored arrows collapsed. Lu Ming's figure flashed and he appeared outside the room. There was a courtyard outside the room. At the moment, a red-haired young man was standing in the courtyard. Xuechuan. Lu Ming said coldly. This person was from the inferior blood tribe, a large tribe in the primitive universe. The inferior blood race was said to have a close relationship with the blood race. It was said that they were made up of blood race members with impure blood. Xuechuan was one of the strongest cultivators of the inferior blood clan. He had the strength of the top of the 4th godly emperor layer, but it was said that he had fought against cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer for 100 times and hadn't died. In the divine emperor realm, being able to surpass 2 levels was considered a top genius even among the countless geniuses in the primitive universe. I didn't expect you to be able to take one of my attacks and not die. It seems like I've underestimated you. Xuechuan sneered. His face was extremely cold. Looks like you still don't know about Kuandong planet. Lu Ming said. What about Kuandong planet? Xuechuan was slightly stunned. Lu Ming understood. Brother Hao would definitely report what had happened on Kuandong planet to the Yunue Pavilion Master. However, there was no need for the Yunue Pavilion Master to inform Lu Ming and the others. Therefore, the other candidates didn't know about Lu Ming's incredible strength on Kuandong planet. Nothing. I'm just curious. I'm only a cultivator of the 1st godly emperor layer. I shouldn't be a threat to you. Why do you want to kill me first? Lu Ming asked. On the surface, with Lu Ming's cultivation level, it was impossible for him to pass the exam. However, Xuechuan was the first one to kill him. He couldn't help but feel a little strange. Since you're going to die, I'll let you know why. First, I instinctively feel that your blood tastes good. If I drink your blood, it may make me stronger. Second, as long as you're alive, you're an unknown factor. I'll kill you one by one. You're the first one. Xuechuan sneered. His face was ferocious. You're really unlucky. You should have chosen someone else. That way you could have lived a little longer. Lu Ming shook his head and sighed. Ridiculous. Don't talk nonsense. Die. Shouted Xuechuan coldly. His blood chi filled the air. His whole body was enveloped by a bloody light. Then he turned into a bloody sword light and slashed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand and 4 gravity pearls flew out. He didn't want to waste time talking nonsense with his opponent. He directly used the gravity pearls. The strength of the 4 gravity pearls completely covered the courtyard. The powerful gravity pressed down on Xuechuan. Xuechuan's body shook violently. The bloody light on his body almost collapsed. Whoosh! Lu Ming attacked. He activated the battle formula and increased his fighting strength by 5 times. He used the Great Holy Wind technique and the Great Breaking technique. His hand was like a knife. Poof! Blood splattered everywhere. Xuechuan's body was torn apart. He couldn't be more dead. One move. Just one move and Xuechuan was killed by Lu Ming. Xuechuan's fighting strength was only equivalent to the strength of the 6th godly emperor layer. After Lu Ming used the gravity pearls, he was caught off guard and was instantly killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming grabbed Xuechuan's interspatial ring and took it. Then he condensed a flame and burned Xuechuan's body to ashes. Are you all pretending to be stupid? Lu Ming glanced around and smiled indifferently. The other people who were participating in the exam lived nearby. Lu Ming didn't believe that these people hadn't noticed what had just happened. However, these people didn't make the slightest movement. They were obviously waiting to reap the benefits. Anyway, no matter if Lu Ming or Xuechuan died, it would be beneficial for them. However, at that moment these people were astonished. Xuechuan was killed. I wouldn't have thought that Mu Yun's strength would be so terrifying. With the strength of the 1st godly emperor layer, he could kill Xuechuan, who had the strength of the 6th godly emperor layer. Even though he used a treasure, it's still terrifying. What terrifying strength. It seems that everyone has underestimated this person. With my strength, how could I have finished in the top 2? Thoughts rose in the hearts of these people. Some of them had serious expressions, some shook their heads and sighed, and some revealed murderous intent. Lu Ming smiled coldly. If these people didn't provoke him, he would be fine. If they provoked him, they would be courting death. Lu Ming's silhouette flickered and he went back to his room. Then he took out a demonic secret skill and started practicing it. He was now practicing ordinary secret skills very quickly. After a short period of time, he could successfully comprehend an ordinary secret skill and turn it into a talisman and integrate it into his cells. All kinds of demonic secret skills turned into talismans and integrated into Lu Ming's cells. Lu Ming gradually mastered more and more secret skills. That night, everything was peaceful. The next day it was still peaceful. Late at night, Lu Ming sensed that there was someone in the courtyard outside his door. "Who is it?" Lu Ming asked coldly. A ray of cold light flashed in his eyes. "Brother Mu Yun, it's me, Ming Yu Sheng." A clear and bright voice sounded. "It's him." Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Ming Yu Sheng was a top genius of the Moonlight Clan. Chapter 3978. The Moonlight Clan was ranked 24th in the list of the 10,000 clans of Ancient Desolation. They were one of the strongest clans. They were even stronger than the Elf Clan. The members of the Moonlight Clan were the incarnations of Moonlight. Ming Yu Sheng was one of the strongest cultivators of the Moonlight Clan. He had the strength of the 5th Godly Emperor layer, but he could defeat opponents who were 2 cultivation layers higher than him. He was terrifyingly strong. Among the 12 people, he was one of the most likely to pass the exam. The other one was the old man who had the strength of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. At least, they were the 2 most likely to pass the exam. Of course, many people thought that Mu Yun was also one of the most likely candidates to pass the exam. With a thought, a blast of air burst out and the door opened automatically. A young man in white clothes was standing outside the door. "You're here to kill me too?" asked Lu Ming icily. "Brother Mu, you misunderstood me. I'm here to talk about cooperation," said Ming Yu Sheng. "Cooperation?" Lu Ming's eyes twinkled. "Indeed. Can I come in?" asked Ming Yu Sheng, smiling elegantly. He looked harmless to humans and animals. "Of course," said Lu Ming. He wasn't afraid of Ming Yu Sheng. If Ming Yu Sheng wanted to die, he didn't mind sending him on his way. Ming Yu Sheng was strong. He could defeat cultivators of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. Lu Ming couldn't compete with him on his own, but Lu Ming had many deadly weapons. Ming Yu Sheng wasn't very talented. He probably couldn't control any powerful weapons. Ming Yu Sheng entered the room and closed the door. "What do you want to talk about?" asked Lu Ming. "This time there are 12 of us. No, it should be 7 now. Among the 7 of us, only 2 can complete the assessment. The ones who are most likely to complete the assessment are Fu Zun, me, and you, Brother Mu. As long as one of us falls, the remaining 2 will almost certainly be able to pass the assessment," said Ming Yu Sheng. "You want to cooperate with me to kill Fu Zun?" asked Lu Ming. Fu Zun was the old man who had the strength of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. It's easy to deal with smart people. Not bad. Fu Zun is old, but he's very strong. Ordinary cultivators of the 7th Godly Emperor layer can't compete with him. I'm not sure I can defeat him, but with Brother Mu, I'm sure I can defeat him," said Ming Yu Sheng. Lu Ming was not surprised by Fu Zun's ability. Those who could participate in the Heavenly Soldier assessment were usually powerful people. Even if they couldn't fight above their level, they were still the best among their peers regardless of age. Sometimes you couldn't underestimate your age. Although his potential was limited due to his age, his combat strength was hard to say. Some people had spent countless years to comprehend the Quintessence God Force Factor and Quintessence God Force Factor. Perhaps the Quintessence God Force Factor had been awakened many times, and many of the shackles of the Quintessence secret technique had been severed. From the looks of it, the more times one awakened their origin divine power, the easier it would be for them to achieve breakthroughs in their cultivation. However, this wasn't absolute. Some people's origin divine power might be awakened many times, but their cultivation wouldn't be able to achieve breakthroughs even after a long time. They could only let their lifespan continue to elapse and become white-haired elders. The fighting strength of these people was often terrifying. Young geniuses were strong, but the fighting strength of some older geniuses was not to be underestimated. "Where do you want to do it? It won't look good here," Lu Ming said. "I won't be as stupid as Xue Chuan. In 2 days we'll go to the Flying Cloud continent to fight against the Flying Star sect. We'll have plenty of chances to do it on the battlefield. No one will suspect that we did it," said Ming Yuesheng. "Okay, I promise you." Lu Ming nodded with a smile. "Haha, this is great. The 2 quotas for the assessment are mine and Brother Mu's. Ming Yuesheng smiled and left his contact information with Lu Ming. He then floated away without anyone noticing. Boy, do you really believe him? Maybe he'll turn around and find Fu Zun to deal with you? Reminded Gu Mo. I just agreed to deal with him. Lu Ming smiled. Boy, I know you're cunning, said Gu Mo with a smile. Bone Devil's guess was right. Ming Yuesheng quietly returned to his room, but not long after, he quietly appeared in another room. It was Fu Zun's room. What kind of cooperation do you want to talk to me about? Fu Zun looked at Ming Yuesheng. His turbid eyes were shining with a terrifying light. You should have seen how Mu Yun killed Xue Chuan, right? Said Ming Yuesheng. Yes, Mu Yun is really terrifying. He's only at the first layer of the Divine Emperor realm. He's a peerless hero, said Fu Zun. There was a flash of jealousy in Ming Yuesheng's eyes, but it disappeared in a flash. Indeed, Mu Yun is a peerless hero. I'm far from him. I wonder if you're interested in joining forces with me to kill such a peerless hero? Said Ming Yuesheng coldly. Join forces with you to kill Mu Yun? Fu Zun's eyes flashed. That's right. Among the remaining people, only you, Mu Yun, and I have the chance to complete the test. As long as we work together to kill him, the 2 test missions will be ours. Besides, any peerless genius would surely have some fortunate encounters, peerless treasures and peerless martial arts. If you can kill him and claim his treasures, you might be able to have a breakthrough in your cultivation, said Ming Yuesheng. The last sentence caused Fu Zun's eyes to shine with a bright and greedy light. Being able to help him break through his cultivation was more attractive than anything else. He had been stuck at the 7th layer of the godly emperor realm for a long time. He had tried all kinds of methods, but he couldn't break through to the 8th layer of the godly emperor realm. He had joined the heavenly palace to become a celestial soldier because he wanted to find a way to break through. If he killed Lu Ming and obtained Lu Ming's treasures, he might be able to break through. He was tempted. He couldn't refuse such a temptation. All right, let's join forces. But we need to think about when to attack, said Fu Zun. Wait until we reach the Feiyun continent. We'll have plenty of opportunities to attack on the battlefield, said Ming Yuesheng. All right. Fu Zun nodded and reached an agreement with Ming Yuesheng. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. After 3 days, Lu Ming and the others followed the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion to the Feiyun continent. The Feiyun continent was a continent floating in the air. It was huge and had rich divine qi. It was the best place to cultivate in the Feiyun Star area. In the past, it was jointly managed by the Flying Star sect and the Yunhua Pavilion. It was also the center of the war. The 2 forces had gathered the most experts on the Feiyun continent. Chapter 3979. However, during this period of time, the Yunhua Pavilion was at a disadvantage on the Feiyun continent. Many experts had died, which was why the Flying Star sect was able to transfer some people away, such as the sudden increase of experts in the Kuandong planet. Lu Ming and the others arrived at the headquarters of the Yunhua Pavilion on the Feiyun continent. This place was like a military camp. At a glance, it was boundless. The Yunhua Pavilion held a banquet to welcome Lu Ming and the others. At the banquet, the pavilion master and the others' attitude towards Lu Ming was completely different from before. They were much more respectful. Obviously, they already knew what had happened on the Kuandong planet. Dong dong dong. Suddenly, the sound of war drums resounded. Pavilion master, the Flying Star sect is attacking. Someone quickly came to report. Everyone, it seems like we can't enjoy this banquet. The pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion said apologetically. Haha, it doesn't matter. Let's go and have a good fight with the Flying Star sect. It won't be too late to eat and drink after we destroy the Flying Star sect. Ming Yuesheng laughed heartily. All right, gather the army and have a good fight with the Flying Star sect. The pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion ordered. Soon after, the war drums sounded and countless figures flew out from the Yunhua Pavilion's military camp. Lu Ming and the other 6 were naturally among them. They naturally couldn't miss such an opportunity. If they didn't dare to participate in every battle, how could they earn merits? How could they complete the assessment? Kill? In front, countless troops of the Flying Star sect roared and rushed over. Kill? Lu Ming and the others also roared. The 2 armies and countless experts clashed in the air. In an instant, countless people died and their bodies fell to the ground. Lu Ming condensed a long spear with his forbidden energy and charged into the crowd of the Flying Star sect. As the long spear stabbed out, the spear radiance was everywhere and the people of the Flying Star sect were constantly killed. Every time a person of the Flying Star sect was killed, A wisp of remnant soul would fly to Lu Ming and be absorbed by the jade talisman sent by the heavenly palace. Their merits were calculated according to the remnant soul absorbed by the jade talisman. Based on the remnant soul, one could deduce the cultivation level of the victim. Lu Ming went on a killing spree as if there was no one around. Soon, over 100 experts from the Flying Star sect had been killed by him. Die, brat. A cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer stared at Lu Ming and attacked Lu Ming. Good timing, shouted Lu Ming furiously. He turned into a beam of light and collided with the cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect. With a loud boom, it was as if the sun had exploded. Rings of energy waves swept out in all directions. Then, the cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect was pushed back and coughed up blood. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. He couldn't believe that a cultivator of the 1st godly emperor layer could injure him in one attack. In the next moment, the 4 gravity pearls emitted a terrifying gravitational force that enveloped the man's body. Then Lu Ming rushed over and killed the man. The people of the Flying Star sect were shocked. They distanced themselves from Lu Ming, their eyes filled with fear. Die. Lu Ming moved in another direction. The army was made up of high-level godly kings. Most of them were godly emperors, but there were also many godly emperors. The battlefield was huge. It was a battlefield for millions and millions of li. Some people were fighting in the sky, some were fighting in the mountains, some were fighting underground. Lu Ming didn't see any people from the Flying Star sect around him. Swoosh. Lu Ming dashed toward a mountain ridge. Over here, some people from the Flying Star sect and the Yunhua Pavilion were engaged in a fierce battle. Lu Ming waved his hands and a gust of wind swept across. 6 to 7 experts from the Flying Star sect were killed by Lu Ming. Leaving behind a few people from the Yunhua Pavilion who were in a daze, Lu Ming flashed past them and dashed toward another place. Just like that, Lu Ming killed hundreds of people from the Flying Star sect in half an hour, including a few cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. However, he didn't encounter any cultivators above the 7th godly emperor layer. Just as Lu Ming passed by a canyon, he suddenly felt a sharp and fierce murderous intent sweeping toward him. Lu Ming looked at it coldly and threw a punch. Boom. Lu Ming's fist collided with a green venomous snake and there was a violent explosion. The green venomous snake was defeated by Lu Ming. It turned out that it was condensed from energy. However, Lu Ming's body also retreated rapidly. Numerous wounds appeared on his arms. How strong. That's the strength of a cultivator of the 7th Holy Emperor layer. Lu Ming's eyes were cold as he stared in one direction. A silhouette appeared in Lu Ming's field of vision. It was an old man, Fu Zun. It seems like you can't control yourself anymore, said Lu Ming. Mu Yun, give me your treasures and the techniques you practice. I'll give you a quick death, said Fu Zun. You alone? Asked Lu Ming probingly. I alone am enough to kill you, said Fu Zun coldly. He and Ming Yusheng had agreed to join hands to deal with Lu Ming. However, he couldn't control his greed and decided to attack alone. After joining hands with Ming Yusheng to kill Lu Ming's treasures would be split equally with Ming Yusheng. If he attacked alone, wouldn't all Lu Ming's treasures be his? Even though Lu Ming was strong, Fu Zun was confident that he could kill Lu Ming. Therefore, he had been watching Lu Ming since the beginning of the battle with the Flying Star sect. He had waited until there was no one around to attack. Is that so? Lu Ming smiled indifferently. Suddenly Lu Ming moved. He turned into a gust of wind and charged Fu Zun. As he charged out, the 4 gravity orbs flew out. The powerful gravity enveloped a large area around him. Divine Snake Reincarnation Seal. Fu Zun hollered. His divine power surged and condensed into more than 10 poisonous snakes, charging toward Lu Ming. Those poisonous snakes hissed and broke through the gravity. They either bit or coiled around Lu Ming. Boom. Lu Ming used his battle formula to increase his battle prowess by 6 times. He used 2 ancient secret skills at the same time to attack the snakes. However, Lu Ming was still no match for them. After a dozen attacks, Lu Ming was pushed back. He had more wounds on his body. With the gravity pearls, Lu Ming could easily kill cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. However, Fu Zun was strong even among cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer. Lu Ming was no match for him. Die. 10,000 snakes murder. Fu Zun roared. More and more green venomous snakes condensed from his body and pounced on Lu Ming. Even the gravity of the gravity pearl could not stop them. Qiuqiu. Lu Ming's mind stirred. Qiuqiu transformed into armor, covering his entire body. A silver spear appeared in his hands. The spear turned into a dozen spear lights and shot out explosively. Chapter 3980. Lu Ming borrowed Qiuqiu's power and charged towards Fu Zun. However, after a dozen moves, Lu Ming still coughed up blood and retreated. Even with Qiuqiu's help, they were still no match for Fu Zun. Die! Fu Zun roared as he transformed into a giant green snake. He traversed the void and coiled around Lu Ming. A green poisonous gas emanated from his body and enveloped Lu Ming. This type of poisonous gas was extremely toxic and had a terrifying corrosive property. Sizzling sounds came from Lu Ming's body. Even Qiuqiu's armor was corroded with holes. The poisonous gas seeped into Lu Ming's body and corroded Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming screamed in pain and struggled with all his might. Die! Fu Zun roared as he coiled around Lu Ming with all his might. He wanted to kill Lu Ming completely. Brat, your ability to put on an act is not bad. Bone Demon secretly sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming. Haha, of course I have to act like it. Lu Ming replied, but he continued to scream in pain. I'll fight you to the death. Lu Ming struggled with all his might and took out the Gale Pearl. With a boom, a powerful force exploded from the Gale Pearl and destroyed everything in its path. However, under Lu Ming's special control, it was as if the Gale Bead had exploded, giving off the feeling that it was a one-time use treasure. The Gale Pearl's explosion created a destructive force that swept out in all directions. Fu Zun, who had transformed into a green snake, screamed in horror as his body was continuously destroyed by the destructive force. Ah, kid, I'll take you down with me. Fu Zun roared. He felt a fatal danger. The power of the Gale Pearl's explosion was too terrifying. He couldn't escape at all. Only death awaited him. Faced with such a situation, Fu Zun went crazy. His body exploded with a boom. He actually self-destructed. The two destructive forces collided continuously and enveloped Lu Ming. After a while, all the forces dissipated. Fu Zun's body had completely disappeared and turned into ashes. Only Lu Ming was left. He was lying on the ground and vomiting blood. His aura was weak and he looked like he was on the verge of death. Another while later, a figure floated over from a hidden place like a ghost. He appeared not far away from Lu Ming and stared coldly at Lu Ming. Brother Mu, are you all right? The figure asked. Brother Ming Yue. Lu Ming spoke with difficulty. This figure was Ming Yusheng. Brother Mu, you look like you're seriously injured? Ming Yusheng asked tentatively. Fortunately, it's all because of that old fellow Fu Zun. I didn't expect that he would attack me first before I attacked him. Fortunately, I have a trump card. Otherwise, I would most likely be in danger. Brother Ming Yue, please lend me a hand, Lu Ming said. Lend you a hand? Muyin, you're really naive. Now, hand over all your treasures and cultivation techniques and I'll give you a quick death, Ming Yuesheng said. Lu Ming's expression did not change. Ming Yuesheng, have you revealed your true face? You were watching from the side just now, right? That's right. That guy Fu Zun thought that he was tailing you secretly, but he didn't know that I was tailing him the whole time. I knew that he wouldn't be able to control himself and would attack you first. When both of you are injured, I can sit back and reap the benefits, Ming Yuesheng said. So, you were lying when you said you wanted to cooperate with me? Lu Ming said. Of course, I cooperated with you only to lower your guard and let you fight to the death with Fu Zun. Everything was within my expectations. Now I'll say it again. Hand over the treasures and divine arts on your body and I can give you a quick death, Ming Yuesheng said. He was afraid that if he killed Lu Ming, he would only be able to obtain Lu Ming's treasures and not Lu Ming's mystical skills. After all, many people would not carry the mystical skills with them. You think too much. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Then he stood up directly. The injuries on his body were healing at an astonishing speed. Moreover, his aura was also rising rapidly. Your injuries? How could it be? Ming Yuesheng roared in shock. What are these injuries to me? Lu Ming smiled. Everything he did before was an act. His purpose was to lure Ming Yuesheng out and make him reveal his true face. Ming Yuesheng thought that he hid it well, but in fact he had been discovered by Lu Ming long ago. Just now he deliberately exploded the Gale Pearl and deliberately injured Fu Zun. His purpose was to lower Ming Yuesheng's guard. Ming Yuesheng thought that everything was going according to his plan, but in fact, everything was going according to Lu Ming's plan. So what if your injuries are healed? You already used your trump card in the battle against Fu Zun. Without it, I can easily kill you, shouted Ming Yuesheng furiously. His body was surrounded by a hazy light. At the same time, moonlight fell from the sky and fell on Ming Yuesheng, making his aura rise rapidly. Bright moon above the sea. A strange phenomenon appeared above Ming Yuesheng's head. A bright moon appeared in the vast sea. The moonlight was boundless and illuminated the sky. The moonlight seemed gentle, but it was terrifyingly destructive. When the moonlight shone on it, the space shattered like a piece of paper. It was Ming Yuesheng's original secret technique. Bang bang bang. When the moonlight shone on Lu Ming's body shook violently and kept exploding. Even Qiuqiu's armor could not resist it. Ming Yuesheng was extremely strong. Even though he only had the strength of the fifth godly emperor layer, he wasn't any weaker than Fu Zun. Since you want to die, I'll help you. Die! Shouted Ming Yuesheng furiously. He used all his strength to control his original secret technique. Bright and pure moonlight turned into pillars of light which moved towards Lu Ming. I don't want to play with you anymore. I'll send you on your way, said Lu Ming indifferently. Then a round pearl appeared in his hand. It was the Zephyr Pearl. When Ming Yuesheng saw the Zephyr Pearl, he frowned in disbelief. He shouted furiously, "How come you have another one? You just exploded. Do you have a second one?" "I only have one Zephyr Pearl," said Lu Ming. Then a strong wind emerged from the Zephyr Pearl. Wherever the strong gale passed, the moonlight that Ming Yuesheng had created was extinguished. The strong gale did not stop and swept towards Ming Yuesheng. Ming Yuesheng was startled and tried to retreat, but it was too late. The strong wind was too fast and caught up with Ming Yuesheng. Ming Yuesheng gave a horrible shriek. He used all his skills to resist, but it was useless. His body was covered in wounds. What? Shouted Ming Yuesheng furiously. He couldn't believe that he was in such a situation. Chapter 3981. Ming Yuesheng roared, truly unwilling to accept this. "I'll let you know when you die. You think you're smart, but I've already guessed all your plans. After you found me, you went to find Fu Zun and said you wanted to join hands with him to fight against me, right? Also, you were hiding in the dark a moment ago. I noticed you," said Lu Ming. How is that possible? This was the last thought that flashed across Ming Yuesheng's mind. He thought he was smart, he thought everything was going according to his plan. He hadn't thought Lu Ming would guess everything. In that case, it was obvious that Lu Ming had deliberately pretended to be injured in the fight with Fu Zun earlier. In fact, Lu Ming could easily kill Fu Zun. Unfortunately, it was too late to figure that out. Ming Yuesheng turned into ashes in the wind. After putting away Ming Yuesheng's storage ring, Lu Ming took out a large number of divine weapons and metal materials from it. "Ball here, eat as much as you want," said Lu Ming. Qiuqiu immediately flew out and turned into a huge metal snake. Back in the primordial divine spirit world, Qiuqiu had once devoured a metal snake and gained the ability of that metal snake. That was, it could devour large amounts of divine weapons and metal-type materials in one go. After turning into a gigantic metal snake, it opened its mouth and swallowed a large number of weapons and metals. Then it turned back into a ball and looked satisfied. Recently, Ball had swallowed a large number of weapons and metals. Its cultivation level had already reached the peak of the fourth godly emperor layer. It felt like it would soon break through to the fifth godly emperor layer. Lu Ming naturally didn't mind. As long as he got weapons and metals, he would feed them to Ball. Qiuqiu burped a few times and circled around Lu Ming happily. Then it transformed back into a bracelet and put it on Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming then left this place and continued to hunt the people from the Flying Star sect. In the next few hours, Lu Ming killed over 100 experts from the Flying Star sect. At this time, the war drums on both sides sounded at the same time, urging them to retreat. Lu Ming flew back to the barracks of the Yunhua Pavilion. When they returned to the barracks, there were originally 7 of them, but now there were only 5 left. The pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion saw that Fu Zun and Ming Yuesheng had not returned. His eyes flickered a few times, but he did not say anything and let Lu Ming and the others go back to rest. As for the Yunhua Pavilion master, he gathered the upper echelons of the Yunhua Pavilion for a discussion. "I plan to launch an all-out attack on the Flying Star sect and fight them to the death," the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion said. Hearing this, the expressions of the upper echelons of the Yunhua Pavilion changed drastically. "Pavilion master, you can't do that. The combat power of our Yunhua Pavilion is no match for the Flying Star sect. If we fight recklessly, it will be disadvantageous to us." Indeed. Initially we hoped that the Heavenly Palace would send some people to help us, but now there are only 5 of them left. Besides, the strongest cultivators are all dead. What's left is a bunch of trash. They won't be able to help us at all. Indeed. I don't know what the Heavenly Palace is doing. They sent some useless people to help us. How could we destroy the Flying Star sect like that? The upper echelons of the Yunue Pavilion were complaining. Do you really think that the strong cultivators sent by the Heavenly Palace are all dead? Asked the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. He looked like an old schemer. Isn't it true? Fu Zun, who had the highest cultivation level, is dead. And Ming Yuexing, even though his cultivation level is not high, I've seen him fight. He's terrifyingly strong. I'm afraid he's as strong as Fu Zun, but he's also dead. There are a few other strong cultivators, but they're all dead. The ones left are all cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer or below. They won't be able to help us at all, said someone. You're wrong, said the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. The upper echelons of the Yunue Pavilion were confused. They were wrong? What were they wrong about? You probably know that the 12 people sent by the Heavenly Palace are all going to participate in the Celestial Soldier exam. Their task is to help the Yunue Pavilion destroy the Flying Star sect. At the same time, among the 12 people, only the 2 who have contributed the most will be able to pass the exam. The others will be eliminated. What will happen if that happens? Asked the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. They'll kill each other, said one of the old men. The others also understood. Indeed, if that happened, they would definitely kill each other because there were only 2 people who could pass the exam. If they could get rid of the others, they would have a higher chance of passing the exam. That's right. When they came, there were 12 of them, but now there are only 5 left. Did they all die on the battlefield? How is that possible? They probably killed each other. There's only one result if they kill each other: the weak ones will be eliminated and the strong ones will stay, said the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. Pavilion master, you're saying that there are true experts among the remaining people. However, their cultivation, said a middle-aged man. The others couldn't believe it either. Because the remaining people's cultivation levels were too low. You have to look further. Those people are going to participate in the Heavenly Palace's Celestial Soldier exam. You can't look at them like normal people. Every time, there are peerless geniuses who participate in the Celestial Soldier exam. Maybe there's someone like that among this group of people. And the strongest, without a doubt, is among the remaining people, said the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. So, who do you think is the strongest one? Asked someone. Mu Yun is the most likely one. Even though he only has the strength of the 1st godly emperor layer, his fighting abilities are comparable to those of the 6th godly emperor layer. He's a peerless cultivator, and with his trump cards, his fighting abilities are unfathomable. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that there's a peerless genius among the remaining people. You have to remember that the Heavenly Palace always does things for a reason. Since the Heavenly Palace sent them here, they must think that there's someone among them who can help us destroy the Flying Star sect. Therefore, I plan to attack the Flying Star sect. At that time, no matter who's hiding, they'll use their full strength. We can't continue to waste time with the Flying Star sect. The more we waste time, the greater the losses we'll suffer. Even if we destroy the Flying Star sect, we'll suffer a great loss. We have to end this battle as soon as possible. The Yunue Pavilion's pavilion master shared his guess and decision. You're right, pavilion master, said the others after hearing the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. All right, gather all the strong cultivators of the Yunue Pavilion. Tomorrow morning we'll fight against the Flying Star sect, said the pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion. That night, Lu Ming received the news that they would fight against the Flying Star sect the next morning. The pavilion master of the Yunue Pavilion is really courageous. All right, the earlier the battle, the earlier the end of the exam. Lu Ming's eyes were shining. He looked relaxed. As for the other 4 people, when they heard the news, they looked grave. They knew how strong they were. Chapter 3982. One night passed in the blink of an eye. The next morning, the pavilion leader of the Yunue Pavilion led the strongest cultivators of the Yunue Pavilion to the Flying Star sect. There were only a few thousand of them. Of course, they were all elites of the Yunue Pavilion, and they were all above the Divine Emperor realm. In the final battle, quality mattered more than quantity. As long as they could kill all the divine emperors of the Flying Star sect, the Flying Star sect would be destroyed. Thousands of divine emperors flew over, creating terrifying shockwaves that shook the entire starry sky. Lu Ming sighed. There was a huge gap in strength between a top-notch universe-level force and a low-level universe-level force. A low-level force could be considered a universe-level force if it had a divine emperor. However, the Yunue Pavilion had thousands of divine emperors. The gap was huge. Of course, there were even stronger universe-level forces. The Yunue Pavilion only had one Divine Emperor layer of the 9th Divine Emperor layer. Some of the stronger universe-level forces had several Divine Emperors. Some even had dozens or hundreds of Divine Emperors. Of course, above the universe-level forces, there was a powerful clan. These powerful clans all had Emperor gods. Above the Divine Emperors were Emperor gods. The clans on the list of primitive 10,000 tribes were even more terrifying as they had many Emperor gods. The higher the ranking, the more terrifying their strength was. Some of the top clans even had people who could compete with the Lord of Heaven of the Heavenly Palace. Many thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. They had crossed thousands of mountains and rivers and were about to reach the territory of the Flying Star sect. Boom boom boom. In front of them the void trembled. Shockwaves swept over like waves, and figures appeared one after another between heaven and earth. They were the experts of the Flying Star sect. The Flying Star sect knew that Lu Ming and the others were coming. The experts of the Flying Star sect who were above the Divine Emperor realm had already gathered and formed a formation, waiting for the people of the Yunue Pavilion. The number of Divine Emperors of the Flying Star sect was no less than that of the Yunue Pavilion. There were thousands of them too. Boom. The chi of the two sides collided in the sky and turned the sky into a chaotic mess. The people of the Yunue Pavilion stopped. Yunsu, what's wrong? Did you bring all the experts of the Yunue Pavilion here to fight with my Flying Star sect? An old man with snow-white hair walked out from the Flying Star sect. He was wearing a long robe with stars on it. His aura was natural and unfathomable. He was the patriarch of the Flying Star sect. He was as famous as Yunsu, the leader of the U-Cloud Pavilion. He had the strength of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. What's the point of continuing to fight? Let's settle this today. The Pavilion Master of the Yunue Pavilion said. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. The sect leader of the Flying Star sect said coldly. Starlight burst out from his body. Although it was daytime, countless stars appeared in the sky. Beams of starlight fell from the sky. Kill. The Pavilion Master of the Yunue Pavilion, Yunsu, shouted. The void exploded as he flew out towards the sect leader of the Flying Star sect. The members of the Flying Star sect also flew out to attack Yunsu. The two of them flew up into the sky and fought in the starry sky. Boom. It seemed like stars were exploding in the starry sky. The entire universe was shaking. A battle between cultivators of the 9th Godly Emperor layer was terrifying. The starry sky was going to explode. Die. Die. The leaders of the two groups started fighting. The others shouted furiously and attacked their opponents. The godly emperors of the U-Cloud Pavilion and the Flying Star sect were attacking each other. It was a great battle between godly emperors. As Lu Ming flew out, a few people attacked Lu Ming. Little boy, die, said a big man with a curly beard. He looked ferocious and had the strength of the 2nd Godly Emperor layer. He threw a few punches at Lu Ming. He wanted to kill Lu Ming. But a cultivator of the 2nd Godly Emperor layer was too weak. Lu Ming didn't even need to attack. He just moved forwards and a strong wind surrounded him. The curly-bearded man was crushed to pieces. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming punched continuously. Streams of fist force were like meteors, blasting toward the God Emperor of the Flying Star sect. Each of his punches could kill a godly emperor. The Flying Star sect's strong cultivators were astonished. The other strong cultivators also looked at Lu Ming. For example, a few cultivators of the 6th Godly Emperor layer looked at Lu Ming and threw themselves at him. Good. Lu Ming waved his hand and 4 gravity pearls flew out. A powerful gravitational force surrounded the cultivators of the 6th Godly Emperor layer. Then Lu Ming used his battle incantation to increase his fighting strength by 6 times. He dashed forward and killed a cultivator of the 6th Godly Emperor layer. How is this possible? The other cultivators of the 6th Godly Emperor layer widened their eyes in shock. Apparently they were stunned by Lu Ming, a cultivator of the 1st Godly Emperor layer. Then they retreated at full speed. They wanted to escape, but with the gravitational force, how could they escape? Lu Ming cast the Great Divine Wind skill. His figure was like a ghost. In a few flashes he caught up with a few of them. He threw out continuous punches. Bam, bam, bam. 3 cultivators of the 6th Godly Emperor layer exploded. Their souls and bodies were destroyed. In this vast territory, the other people of the 2 great forces were also fighting very fiercely. Cultivators of the 8th Godly Emperor layer were fighting against cultivators of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. However, the Flying Star sect had more cultivators of the 7th and 8th Godly Emperor layer. They had more cultivators. For example, the Yunue Pavilion had 12 cultivators of the 8th Godly Emperor layer, while the Flying Star sect had 14. The Flying Star sect had more cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer. Therefore the Yunhua pavilion was at a disadvantage. They could only join hands and defend themselves. At the same time, they were praying and hoping that Lu Ming and the others would be able to turn the situation around. At that moment, some cultivators of the 7th and 8th godly emperor layer were staring at Lu Ming. "Two people, go and kill that little boy," shouted someone furiously. "I'll go and kill him," shouted a cultivator of the 7th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect. He turned into a starlight sword and moved towards Lu Ming. "If you didn't come to me, I would have gone to you," said Lu Ming coldly. He rose up in the air and threw himself at his opponent. He had originally planned to get involved in the battle between the cultivators of the 7th and 8th godly emperor layer. That way he would be able to gain more merits. In the process of dashing out, Lu Ming took out the Gale Pearl and drew out the power in it. Boom! A violent gale burst out and rushed towards the other party with an earth-shattering momentum. The other party was immediately enveloped by the raging wind. The raging wind instantly tore apart the other party's defense. The other party roared in shock and fear. At this moment he was filled with regret. He didn't expect Lu Ming to have such a powerful killing weapon. He shouldn't have attacked Lu Ming. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. He was reduced to ashes in the strong wind. The cultivators of the 7th and 8th godly emperor layers were astonished. Chapter 3983. When Lu Ming killed a cultivator of the 7th godly emperor layer in one fell swoop, the other cultivators of the 7th and 8th godly emperor layers were astonished. After that, the cultivators of the two groups had different feelings. The people of the Flying Star sect were astonished, while the people of the Yunhua pavilion were delighted. He had killed a cultivator of the 7th godly emperor layer in one hit, which meant that he was as strong as a cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer. He could change the outcome of a battle. "Die!" shouted Lu Ming icily. He was surrounded by a strong wind as he moved towards the cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer. He was very far away, and a few wind blades moved towards the cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect. Each wind blade was terrifyingly powerful. The cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect's expression changed drastically. They ignored the cultivators of the Yunhua pavilion and focused on the wind blades. Someone raised his hand and a gigantic mountain appeared. The mountain was gray and golden, blocking the way. Someone took out a shield, which became incomparably huge, blocking in front of him. Some people released a dozen defensive godly lights in front of them. Then the gale wind blade arrived. With a series of terrifying explosions, the mountain was torn apart and exploded into pieces. The shield was cut in half, and a dozen defensive godly lights were pierced through. 3 cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer gave horrible shrieks as they turned into ashes. Instantly killed. Instantly killed again. 3 cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer. When Lu Ming was a quasi-emperor, he could use the Zephyr Pearl to fight against cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer. Back then, his great godly wind technique hadn't broken through to the initial level yet. Now, not only had his great godly wind technique broken through to the initial level, but he had also broken through to the godly emperor layer. His strength was much stronger than before. Cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer couldn't withstand a single attack. How can he be so strong? The cultivators of the Flying Star sect were astonished. Lu Ming didn't care about their feelings. After killing the 3 cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer, he moved closer. The Zephyr Pearl turned into a terrifying wind blade and moved towards the cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer. "Retreat, retreat quickly." When the cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer saw Lu Ming coming, they didn't dare continue fighting and retreated. "You have the strength of the 8th godly emperor layer and you want to kill someone of the 7th godly emperor layer?" There was a furious roar. In the sky, a huge palm print, which was completely condensed from starlight, slapped toward Lu Ming. Everywhere the palm print passed by, the void turned into chaos. Its power was extremely terrifying. Lu Ming didn't need to look to know it was a cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer. Lu Ming held the Zephyr bead in his hand. A violent gale rushed out from the Zephyr bead and turned into a wind blade that slashed towards the palm print. Boom. Some cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer didn't have time to dodge and were blown away by the explosive chi. They coughed up blood and were all coughed up blood. The gale wind blade and starlight palm disappeared at the same time. An old man wearing a starry robe appeared in the sky. He was surrounded by starlight and looked extraordinary. However, the killing intent in his eyes was as cold as a knife. Who are you? You have the strength of the first godly emperor layer and you're so strong. There's no one like you in the Yunue Pavilion, said the old man with white hair. I'm from the Heavenly Palace, replied Lu Ming. What? You're from the Heavenly Palace? Could it be? The old man's expression changed drastically. He pulled a long face. Before that, he didn't know the Heavenly Palace wanted to kill them. I'll send you to hell, said Lu Ming indifferently. Then he threw himself at the old man. If possible, Lu Ming didn't want to kill him. If he was an enemy of the Heavenly Palace, he might become a friend in the future. Unfortunately, Lu Ming didn't have a choice now. The most important thing was that the Heavenly Palace had already found out what they were doing. If the Heavenly Palace found out, they would die. Even if Lu Ming didn't kill them, the Heavenly Palace would send people to kill them. Then they would all be killed. Lu Ming only wanted to kill the higher-ups. At the very least, the people in the middle and lower levels would be spared. The gale wind blade turned into a tornado and swept across the sky like a dragon, moving towards the old man with white hair. The white-haired elder let out a long roar, suppressing the shock in his heart. He continuously struck out with his palms, transforming them into a huge starlight handprint that blasted toward Lu Ming. But this time, the force that Lu Ming drew out from the Gale Pearl was stronger and more terrifying. When the tornado and the starlight palm collided, the starlight palm broke apart. The old man's body shook violently and he was pushed back. He coughed up blood and wounds appeared on his body. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Lu Ming didn't give him any time to breathe. He continued controlling the gale wind blade. Shouted the old man furiously. His entire body started shining as if he had turned into a star. Star Chi attack. The white-haired elder roared. His body transformed into a star, traversing the void and colliding with Lu Ming. Boom. The gale wind blade collided with Lu Ming's gale wind blade. This time the result was the same as the previous time. Even though the gale wind blade had been blocked, the old man was still injured, and his injuries were even more serious. Now, with my full strength, I can suppress ordinary cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer. Lu Ming made a judgment on the strength of the gale bead. He could easily suppress cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer. The most important thing was that the gale wind blade contained in the gale pearl was endless. It could destroy an entire galaxy. Lu Ming just needed to draw it out. It was much easier than using other weapons. With a thought, the gale wind blade came out of the gale pearl. Hurry up and help me, shouted the old man furiously. He turned around and tried to run away. He had already blocked 2 of the gale wind blade's attacks. If he continued, he would be in danger. You can't escape. Crush him. Lu Ming used his full strength to control the gravity pearl. The gravity pearl surrounded the old man. At the same time, he released his full strength and chased after the old man. Stop! Shouted someone furiously. The other cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect rushed over at an incredible speed. Initially, the Flying Star sect had 14 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer, while the Yunue Pavilion had 12 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer. The Yunue Pavilion had been completely suppressed. But now, 2 cultivators of the 8th divine emperor realm had left the battlefield and been lured away by Lu Ming. The pressure on the Flying Star sect was greatly reduced and their morale was high. They could finally launch a counterattack and fight against the people of the Flying Star sect. On the other side, Lu Ming was even faster. Before the cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect arrived, Lu Ming's gale wind blade had already surrounded the old man. Chapter 3984. Shouted the white-haired old man furiously. He used all his strength to block the attack. However, Lu Ming had already dashed into the gale and launched a fierce attack. Lu Ming and Qiu Qiu joined hands, holding a silver spear and attacking the old man. The long silver spear was very powerful with the help of the Great God Wind skill and the Great Shattering skill. If the white-haired elder was at his peak, Lu Ming would not be able to do anything to him. However, at this moment, the other party was seriously injured and he had to use all his strength to resist the attack of Lai Feng. The silver spear successfully broke through the white-haired old man's defense and pierced through his body. Then, with a jolt of the spear, a destructive power burst out and the white-haired old man's body was torn apart. Even his soul couldn't escape. A cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer had died. At that moment, the cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect finally arrived and started attacking Lu Ming. He condensed starlight into a starlight saber and slashed it down. Bam bam bam. The starlight saber collided with the gale. The gale shook violently, and the starlight saber created a small crack in it. After all, Lu Ming had focused all his energy on the old man, so the gale wasn't that strong. However, at this moment, Lu Ming had already killed the white-haired elder and had recovered. Die! Lu Ming hollered. Another gust of terrifying gale rushed out of the gale pearl. A strong wind crashed against the cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer. His starlight shook violently and broke apart. He had the same fate as the white-haired old man, coughing up blood. He was badly injured and sent flying backwards. Damn! Shouted the old man furiously. He didn't want to fight against Lu Ming anymore. Instead, he retreated to the other cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect. He knew that he couldn't defeat Lu Ming alone. He would end up like the old man killed by Lu Ming. That little boy only has one deadly weapon, but with his cultivation level he won't be able to defeat him in a few attacks. One more person kill him. Shouted someone from the Flying Star sect. Do you think we're useless? Use your full strength. Shouted the cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer from the Yunue pavilion. They also used their full strength to attack. Each of them entangled an opponent and launched a frenzied attack, making it impossible for their opponents to free up their hands. They knew that it was the most important moment to win. As long as Lu Ming killed another cultivator of the 8th layer God Emperor realm and helped them, they would be able to win the battle. It was a matter of life and death. Of course they had to fight. Not only were the people from the Yunue pavilion fighting with their lives on the line, but the people from the Flying Star sect were also fighting with their lives on the line. However, in that case it would be difficult for the Flying Star sect to deal with Lu Ming. As for Lu Ming, he was going after the expert of the 8th God Emperor realm who had attacked him. With the help of the great godly wind technique and the strong gale, Lu Ming turned into a hurricane. He was extremely fast, chasing after the cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer. The cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer had been injured by Lu Ming, so he was much slower now. He was surrounded by the strong gale. He couldn't escape. He shouted and tried his best to break free, but he couldn't escape. Boom! Lu Ming released a terrifying strong gale, which turned into a tornado and moved towards his opponent. His opponent used his full strength to block it, but he was severely injured. His chi was weak and his life was hanging by a thread. Die! Lu Ming wanted to use his strongest attack. How dare you! There was a furious roar in the starry sky. Then a starry sword gleam pierced through the air and slashed toward Lu Ming. Its power was extremely terrifying. Lu Ming had a bad feeling about that attack. The patriarch of the Flying Star sect had attacked. He had attacked Lu Ming while he was fighting against the leader of the Yunue pavilion. I'm your opponent! Shouted the leader of the Yunue pavilion furiously. Rumbling sounds spread in the sky. However, that starry sword gleam still slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming had no choice but to give up on attacking the cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer. He used his full strength to block the starlight sword. A strong wind rolled out and collided with the starlight sword. A cultivator of the 9th godly emperor layer was much stronger than a cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer. But the patriarch of the Flying Star sect was fighting against the leader of the Yunue pavilion, so he couldn't use his full strength. The cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect took advantage of that opportunity to retreat. Unfortunately, he was too injured. He couldn't escape. Lu Ming grunted icily. His silhouette flickered and he quickly caught up with him. I'll send you to hell, said Lu Ming coldly. A strong wind rolled in waves. Ayah! A horrible shriek spread in the air. The second cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect had died in Lu Ming's hands. The other cultivators of the Flying Star sect were astonished. Lu Ming had killed 2 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer by himself. The balance between the two sides had been broken. Swish! Lu Ming moved towards the cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer. Gather! Gather! Use your full strength to defend. Wait for the patriarch to finish them off, then we'll win. Shouted a cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect. Gather! Defend! Shouted the other cultivators of the Flying Star sect. While fighting, they slowly moved and gathered with the other cultivators of the Flying Star sect. Very quickly, the 12 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect gathered together and used their full strength to defend. Lu Ming released a strong wind, but the 12 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer gathered together and formed a sphere. Surprisingly, the strong wind couldn't break through their defense. The other cultivators of the Yunue pavilion also attacked, but they couldn't break through their defense. Should I use the Shen Ice Rod? Whispered Lu Ming. If he used the Shen Ice Rod, it would definitely be more powerful than the Zephyr Pearl. It could probably break through the defense of the cultivators of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. But there were too many people there. If someone saw that the Shen Ice Rod was extraordinary, it would be troublesome. Afterward, Lu Ming looked into the depths of the starry sky. In the depths of the starry sky, 2 cultivators of the 9th Godly Emperor layer were fighting. They were so fast that they looked like 2 beams of light. They kept colliding with each other. Ordinary people couldn't see them clearly. But Lu Ming could see them clearly. He frowned. The leader of the Yunhua Pavilion and the patriarch of the Flying Star sect were fighting fiercely. It seemed like they were evenly matched, but in fact, the leader of the Yunhua Pavilion was at a disadvantage. Otherwise, the patriarch of the Flying Star sect wouldn't have had time to attack Lu Ming. In a short time it was difficult to determine the winner, but in a long time, the leader of the Yunhua Pavilion would definitely lose. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. Chapter 3985. Maybe I should try to break through to the 9th Godly Emperor layer. A thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind. He then soared into the sky and dashed into the starry sky. The others were astonished. What is he doing? Does he want to get involved in a battle of the 9th Godly Emperor layer? He's overestimating himself. Even though he can kill cultivators of the 8th Godly Emperor layer with his deadly weapon, he can't compete with cultivators of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. He wants to die. Great. Great. I hope the Patriarch can kill him. That way we'll have a chance to win. The members of the Flying Star sect were overjoyed. The members of the Yunhua Pavilion were astonished. Oh no. He's too impulsive. After all, he's too young. The people of the Yunhua Pavilion were shocked. They felt that it was unwise for Lu Ming to go to the battlefield of the 9th level God Emperors. If he was not careful, he would be killed by the 9th level God Emperors. But it was too late to stop him. Lu Ming was already in the air. He released a strong wind towards the patriarch of the Flying Star sect. "Little boy, you want to attack me? You're overestimating yourself," shouted the patriarch of the Flying Star sect icily. Starlight appeared around him and a starlight sword emerged from his body and moved towards the strong wind. Rumbling sounds spread in the air. The starlight sword and the strong wind collided, and then they both disappeared. "Brother Mu Yun, hurry up and move away," shouted the patriarch of the Yunhua Pavilion. He was worried too. Lu Ming could use his deadly weapon. Even though he was strong, he couldn't get involved in a battle of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. If the patriarch of the Flying Star sect used his full strength, Lu Ming would be in danger. "Don't worry. I'll help you kill him," said Lu Ming calmly. He even smiled at the patriarch of the Yunhua Pavilion. "Ah, you want to kill me?" said the patriarch of the Flying Star sect, laughing furiously. A terrifying chi emerged from his body. Starlight filled the air. At that moment, the stars in the sky were shining. Then, a shocking scene appeared in the starry sky of the universe. Starlight condensed into swords. They released a terrifying chi and moved towards Lu Ming and the patriarch of the Yunhua Pavilion. Stellar Cycle Sword Kill. The sect master of the Flying Star sect roared and pressed his hands down. At least hundreds of huge starry sword lights shot towards Lu Ming and the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion. "Back off." The pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion roared. He also attacked with all his might. In an instant he blasted out hundreds of palms. Hundreds of huge palm prints blasted out, wanting to block those starry divine swords. However, there were too many starry divine swords. The pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion could not block them all. If he were alone, these starry heavenly swords wouldn't be able to do anything to him. However, Lu Ming was nearby. He wanted to free himself to save Lu Ming, but he didn't have the strength to do so. He could only hope that Lu Ming would be able to avoid it. However, Lu Ming did not dodge. Instead, he charged toward the Flying Star sect's sect leader. Not good. The pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion was shocked and his expression changed drastically. As for the sect leader of the Flying Star sect, a ferocious expression appeared on his face. Whoosh whoosh. Lu Ming continued to guide the energy within the Gale Pearl towards the starry sword lights, colliding with them continuously. However, this was a killer move that the sect master of the Flying Star sect had unleashed with all his might. It was extremely powerful and was even more powerful than the Gale Pearl. In the end, the Gale Pearl was continuously slashed apart. The remaining power of the starry sword lights continued to slash at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body was wrapped in a gust of wind. He flashed continuously and dodged the attacks of the starry sword lights. Lu Ming's speed was extremely fast. Some of the starry sword lights were successfully dodged. Die, brat. The sect master of the Flying Star sect roared ferociously. Many more starry sword lights slashed towards Lu Ming. However, most of his strength was still used to deal with the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion. He could not use his full strength against Lu Ming. He could only use a portion of his strength. Lu Ming used all his strength to guide the power of the Gale Pearl. He blocked some of the attacks and successfully dodged some of them. The sect master of the Flying Star sect looked glum. Lu Ming was even more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. He was extremely fast and slippery. It was difficult to hit him. Pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion, use your full strength. Use your strongest attack against the sect master of the Flying Star sect. At that moment, Lu Ming said to the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion telepathically. What? The pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion was surprised. Use your full strength to attack and pin down the sect master of the Flying Star sect. I am confident that I can injure him severely. Lu Ming continued to talk to the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion telepathically. The pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion was astonished. Did Lu Ming still have trump cards that he had not used? Could a cultivator of the first godly emperor layer really have a way to injure a cultivator of the ninth godly emperor layer? However, he thought of the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace would not have sent these people for no reason. They must have thought of something. At that moment, it seemed like only Lu Ming could play a key role. The others had not performed well yet. All right. At that moment he could only choose to believe in Lu Ming. Come on, old dog of the Flying Star sect. Let's fight to the death. Shouted the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion. Dazzling divine light shone from his body as he raised his energy to the maximum. Celestial Cloud Finger. Shouted the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion as he pointed his finger. Boundless divine light turned into a boundless finger and pointed at the sect master of the Flying Star sect. Great, I can kill you now. Shouted the sect master of the Flying Star sect. He gathered boundless starlight and turned it into a gigantic divine sword. He used his strongest attack and slashed the divine sword at the boundless finger. Of course, the sect master of the Flying Star sect still had some tricks up his sleeve. He had set up a dozen layers of starlight around him to defend himself against Lu Ming. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming took advantage of the opportunity to draw out the gale from the Gale Pearl and attack the sect master of the Flying Star sect. However, when the gale hit the starlight around the sect master of the Flying Star sect, it was blocked by the starlight. You want to break my defense with the strength of the 8th godly emperor layer? Ridiculous. Sneered the sect master of the Flying Star sect. At the same time, the sect master of the Flying Star sect and the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion's strongest attacks collided and dazzling lights exploded. Half of the starry sky was covered by the dazzling lights and people couldn't open their eyes. At that moment, Lu Ming's eyes glittered coldly. Now's the time. A long staff appeared in Lu Ming's hand. It was the Shen Ice Staff. The forbidden power surged madly into the mysterious ice staff. The mysterious ice staff grew rapidly and turned into a giant staff that was bigger than a mountain. Boom. Lu Ming held the Shen Ice Staff and threw it at the sect master of the Flying Star sect. The void shattered under the bombardment of the mysterious ice staff. The sect master of the Flying Star sect frowned as he sensed danger. If he had been at his peak, he wouldn't have taken the attack seriously. He was confident that he could block it. However, he had just used his strongest attack to resist the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion. He didn't have the strength to fight back. Boom. The Shen Ice Staff bombarded the sect master of the Flying Star sect and the starlight around his body. Chapter 3986. The mysterious ice rod, which was bigger than a mountain, struck the sect leader of the Flying Star sect's protective starlight and exploded. The sect leader of the Flying Star sect's body shook violently and his protective starlight shattered one after another. More than a dozen layers of protective starlight shattered. The huge mysterious ice rod landed heavily on the sect leader of the Flying Star sect. He screamed in pain and his body flew out, smashing a few large meteorites into pieces. He flew out for hundreds of millions of miles. Blood spurted out and dyed the starry sky red. Many of his bones were broken and he was severely injured. He was too careless. He did not expect Lu Ming to suddenly unleash such a terrifying attack. If he had been prepared, he would not have been in such a miserable state. After sending the sect leader of the Flying Star sect flying, Lu Ming immediately put away the mysterious ice rod. On the other side, the Yunhua Pavilion master was stunned. He did not expect the sect leader of the Flying Star sect to be severely injured all of a sudden. Of course, he knew that it was Lu Ming who attacked. However, he did not see how Lu Ming attacked. This was because when his attack collided with the sect leader of the Flying Star sect, there was a light that was 100 times more dazzling than the sun. He could not see it clearly. He could only vaguely see a huge shadow of a rod that sent the sect leader of the Flying Star sect flying and then disappeared. Pavilion Master Yunhua, he is not dead yet. Seize the opportunity. Lu Ming's voice rang in the ears of the Yunhua Pavilion Master. The Yunhua Pavilion Master seemed to have woken up from a dream and threw all distracting thoughts to the back of his mind. His body flashed and he charged towards the sect leader of the Flying Star sect. The distance of hundreds of millions of miles was covered in an instant. Huge palm prints blasted towards the sect leader of the Flying Star sect. The sect leader of the Flying Star sect roared and flew out from a meteorite. He emitted starlight and resisted with all his might. However, he had been hit by Lu Ming earlier and his injuries were very serious. He had less than 50% of his full strength and was no match for the Pavilion Master of the Yunhua Pavilion. In just a few moves he was coughing blood and his injuries had worsened. At this moment, Lu Ming summoned a gust of strong wind and formed a tornado that swept towards the sect leader of the Flying Star sect. "You treacherous little bastard, I'll kill you." The sect master of the Flying Star sect roared as he pounced toward Lu Ming. He truly hated Lu Ming to the core. Lu Ming was really too sinister. He obviously had a stronger killing weapon, but he didn't use it before. He waited until Lu Ming had underestimated him before suddenly using it, catching him off guard and causing him to be heavily injured by Lu Ming. If Lu Ming had taken out that killer weapon from the start, he would have been on guard and would not have fallen into such a predicament. However, he was very weak now. When his attack collided with the gale, it actually did not break through the gale. At this moment, the Cloud Moon Pavilion's Pavilion Master's attack arrived, and a palm landed on the Flying Star sect master's body. The Flying Star sect master's body exploded, and only his head remained as he madly fled. Sect Master. At this moment, one of the experts from the Flying Star sect felt a chill in his heart. His face was ashen. Boom. Rumbling sounds spread in the starry sky as a gigantic hand appeared and enveloped the Flying Star sect master's head. The Flying Star sect master's head exploded, and his soul was annihilated. The sect master, a cultivator of the 9th godly emperor layer, had been annihilated by Lu Ming. The sect master has died. Retreat. Retreat. When the Flying Star sect master had been killed, the remaining cultivators of the Flying Star sect were terrified. Some of them shouted in fear and retreated. Boom. In the starry sky, a gigantic hand descended from the sky and bombarded a cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer who wanted to escape. That cultivator's body exploded and he died. The Cloud Moon Pavilion's Pavilion Master had attacked. Ordinary cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer could only die in a flash against cultivators of the 9th godly emperor layer. Set up the formation, defend. Shouted the remaining cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect. The remaining 11 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer gathered together and used their full strength to defend themselves. Layers of defensive lights surrounded them. You think you can stop me? Today the Flying Star sect will be destroyed. The Cloud Moon Pavilion's Pavilion Master appeared and pointed at them. That was his strongest attack, the Celestial Cloud Finger. A gigantic finger moved towards the 11 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect. At the same time, the 12 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer of the Cloud Moon Pavilion also released their strongest attacks to help the Cloud Moon Pavilion's Pavilion Master. Boom. The attacks of the 13 cultivators of the Flying Star sect crashed against the Flying Star sect's formation. Rumbling sounds spread in the air as the 11 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect were blown apart. The 11 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer were blown away like meteors. They all coughed up blood and their faces were deathly pale. Die! Shouted the Cloud Moon Pavilion's Pavilion Master. He threw 2 punches and killed 2 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer. The cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer of the Cloud Moon Pavilion also attacked. They kept releasing all sorts of deadly attacks. In the distance, Lu Ming was standing calmly in the air. He didn't continue fighting. He didn't need to fight anymore. The balance between the two sides was broken. The Flying Star sect was doomed. 2 cultivators of the 8th godly emperor layer had died in his hands. That was enough for him to pass the exam. Because among the remaining people no one could compare to him. On the vast battlefield the killing continued. However, it was a one-sided battle. The people of the Flying Star sect were running for their lives. The people of the Cloud Moon Pavilion were chasing them. Apart from Lu Ming, there were 4 other people from the Heavenly Palace who were going to take the exam. Those 4 people were also chasing the people of the Flying Star sect. They knew that Lu Ming would definitely take one spot. The 4 of them could only compete for one spot. The battle lasted for more than half a day before it finally came to an end. In the end, the Flying Star sect suffered a crushing defeat. 80% of the cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect had died. 50 to 60% of the cultivators of the 1st godly emperor layer to the 6th godly emperor layer had died. The rest had either surrendered or escaped. After that, the Yunue Pavilion led an army to attack the Flying Star sect's territory and occupied it. However, Lu Ming and the others didn't get involved because the sky official had appeared and taken them away. In the starry sky, you've done well this time. The Flying Star sect has been destroyed. Your mission is complete. Now take out your jade talismans and let me have a look, said the sky official. He didn't mention the people who had disappeared. It was normal for some people to die during the exam. Lu Ming and the others gave their talismans to the sky official. The sky official took them, scanned them with his spiritual awareness and nodded. Muyun, you passed the exam. Take the talisman, said the sky official. Then he gave the talisman back to Lu Ming. Yao Feng, you passed the exam. Take the talisman, said the sky official, giving a talisman to another young man. Chapter 3987. The other 3 were disappointed by the sky official's announcement. The 3 of you have failed the test. I'll take back the jade talismans. Go do what you need to do. The sky official waved his hand, and a wave of energy swept up Lu Ming and Yao Feng, leaving behind the 3 of them to weep at each other. The sky official moved very quickly, bringing Lu Ming's group back to Dream Sky City and into a large hall. This hall was extremely vast and exuded an incomparably dense divine qi that was even denser than many cultivation holy lands. Lu Ming saw quite a few people sitting cross-legged in the hall, cultivating. Cultivate here for now. Once everyone has arrived, the next round of the test will begin, and it will also be the final test. Those who complete it will become true celestial soldiers. The sky official explained, and then he added, relax, no one will dare to attack you while you cultivate here. With these words, the sky official drifted away. Brother Mu, please. Yao Feng cupped his fists to Lu Ming and then drifted away, meeting up with several others on the other side of the hall. It was clear that these people were from the same clan as Yao Feng. As they gathered together, they began to whisper to each other. Several of the youths would occasionally glance in Lu Ming's direction, disbelief and shock in their eyes. Lu Ming faintly smiled and ignored them. He went to an open space on the side of the hall, sat down cross-legged, and began to meditate on the great demon sword art. He had originally wanted to cultivate other secret arts of the demonic path, but ordinary secret arts of the demonic path would turn into secret art runes that would fuse into his cells, making them too eye-catching. Thus, Lu Ming chose to meditate on the great demon sword art. Lu Ming had long since memorized the great demon sword art, but comprehending it was not something that could be done in a short time. This was the perfect place to do so. As time passed, more and more people gathered in the hall. It was clear that more and more people had finished watching the first round of the test. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt his skin tighten. Killing intent. Lu Ming abruptly opened his eyes. His gaze was like lightning as he looked in a certain direction. There was a group of people in that direction. There were more than 10 of them. There were both men and women, and they were all handsome. The women were beautiful and they could compete with the elves. However, these people were all dressed in white robes that faintly emitted holy light. Angels. At one glance, Lu Ming knew that these people were from the angel tribe. Although he didn't extend his angelic wings, the signs of life were too obvious. Whoosh! More than a dozen young angels stepped towards Lu Ming. They arrived in front of Lu Ming in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming's face was calm as he sat there, unmoving. The sky official had said that no one would dare to make a move here, including the members of the 10 strongest races. Mu Yun. One of the taller angel youths said coldly. His golden hair danced in the wind like a mad lion. What's up? Lu Ming looked up and said indifferently. You're really bold. Someone like you dares to challenge young Master Gabbert? There's no need for him to make a move. The next time I see you, I'll beat you to death. The golden-haired angel prodigy said. Let me give you a piece of advice. It's best if you don't make a move blindly. Otherwise you'll be the ones to die. Lu Ming said, his face still calm. The young angels sneered, their eyes cold. Then we'll see. The angel youth left behind a cold murderous aura and then stepped away. By the side, many people glanced at Lu Ming. I heard that when Mu Yun was with the elves he challenged Gabbert of the angel race. They agreed to fight 1,000 years later. I heard that too. This matter has caused quite a stir in the universe. Do you think Mu Yun can fight Gabbard 1,000 years later? How is that possible? That's completely impossible. Even if Mu Yun's talent isn't inferior to Gabbard's, his cultivation is too far away from Gabbard's. How can he catch up in 1,000 years? Indeed, 1,000 years will pass in the blink of an eye. It's too short. Many people were discussing. However, some people also looked at Lu Ming curiously but didn't comment. These people were generally prodigies from some of the top 10 races, such as the prodigies of the top 10 races. Excuse me. At this moment, a young man of 15 or 16 years old, wearing a loose Taoist robe, flashed and walked toward Lu Ming. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a trace of a smile. Dandan. He didn't expect to meet again after parting on the dragon race's mother planet. However, he didn't see Bubbles. Dandan came to Lu Ming's side and then sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming. Brother, you actually dare to go against those stupid birds of the angel race. Well done, I support you. Dandan naturally couldn't recognize Lu Ming. Now that Lu Ming was in his current body, his life origin aura was completely different. He continued, to be honest, I've been unhappy with those stupid birds for a long time. Back on the dragon race's mother planet, those stupid birds dared to bully one of my underlings. I've long wanted to deal with them. How about it, let's join forces. Lu Ming's face darkened. Wasn't the underling this guy was talking about him? Back on the dragon race's mother planet, there was an angel race powerhouse who cooperated with the Lord of Heaven of the Heavenly Palace to deal with Lu Ming. Brother, why is your face so dark? Could it be that you're actually afraid of those stupid birds? Dandan continued, trying to provoke him. I'm afraid that you're not qualified to join forces with me. Lu Ming sneered. Swish. Dandan immediately jumped 30 feet high. His eyes were wide open, and he was so angry that his loose Taoist robe was fluttering. Boy, how dare you look down on me? I'm so angry. Boy, give me your contact information for the dreamy divine jade. When the time comes, I'll prove it to you and see if I'm qualified. Dandan was still glaring at Lu Ming. He had always been conceited. Now that he was being looked down on, he was so angry that his liver hurt. Okay. Lu Ming nodded casually, and then he and Dandan exchanged contact information for the dreamy divine jade. Right now, he did not intend to tell Dandan the truth. After all, the fact that he was Lu Ming was not a trivial matter. He must not leak it out. Once it was leaked out, he would not be able to find shelter in the primitive universe, let alone sneaking into the heavenly palace. He would have no choice but to run back to the mother planet of the Dragon Clan. After exchanging contact information with Lu Ming, Dandan left in a huff. Mu Yun. Just as Lu Ming was about to continue comprehending the Great Devil Sword technique, another voice rang out. It was very crisp and pleasant to the ears. Lu Ming was speechless. Why was it so difficult to cultivate properly? From the voice, he knew that the elf princess Ling Yue had arrived. A fresh and natural aura assaulted his face as a figure floated over. If it wasn't Ling Yue, who else could it be? Beside Ling Yue there were a few young elves. They were all women and were extremely beautiful. Lu Ming even recognized one of them. It was that Hua Shui. On the side, many people looked at Lu Ming and then at Ling Yue, revealing looks of envy. Of course, there were also many people who revealed strong hostility. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Chapter 3988. What a coincidence. Are you also participating in the Heavenly Soldier Assessment? I didn't hear you mention it before. Lu Ming said with a smile. Previously, I did not plan to participate in the Heavenly Soldier Assessment, but last time, I obtained the opportunity of the Holy Seed Mother Tree and my talent greatly increased. Royal Father decided to let me enter the Heavenly Palace to gain experience. It will be very beneficial for my future cultivation, so I came. Ling Yue said, carefully sizing up Lu Ming, her eyes becoming brighter and brighter. You've already broken through to the Divine Emperor realm? There was shock amidst the joy. She remembered clearly that when she met Lu Ming for the first time at the Resource Alliance Agreement in the Iron Sea Star Territory Group, Lu Ming's cultivation level was too low. He was too far away from the Divine Emperor realm. But how long had it been since Lu Ming had stepped into the Divine Emperor realm? This cultivation speed was truly shocking. Lu Ming said that he would challenge Gabbard 1,000 years later. In the eyes of others it was a joke, but now she felt that it might really be possible. I'm just lucky I can't compare to you. Lu Ming laughed. He discovered that Ling Yue's cultivation had already reached the peak of the second layer of the Divine Emperor realm. She was just a step away from breaking through to the third layer of the Divine Emperor realm. This kind of cultivation speed was also incomparably shocking. It seemed that Ling Yue's talent had also reached a terrifying level. Beauty, I heard that you are this guy's fiancé? Sigh, it's really a flower stuck in cow dung. A discordant voice rang out. It was Dandan again. He didn't know when he had turned around again. Why don't you break off the engagement? I'll introduce you to a young elite. He's my little brother, but it's not convenient for him to meet you right now. His talent is definitely higher than Mu Yun's. Why don't you consider it? Dandan continued. He was clearly taking revenge on Lu Ming. He was still brooding over Lu Ming's underestimation of him. Lu Ming was speechless. Dandan, this guy, still hadn't changed at all. No need, thank you. Ling Yue frowned. She was a little unhappy with Dandan. I'm serious. You should really consider it. That little brother of mine is extremely talented. He's destined to become a universe overlord in the future. Dandan kept talking and continued to promote. Ling Yue's face was gloomy as she unhappily swept her gaze over Dandan. Sigh, what a woman's view. What's so good about this fellow? That little brother of mine is better? Dandan muttered a few words unwillingly, then left as quickly as she could. For a moment, Lu Ming and Ling Yue felt a little awkward as they chatted casually. Alright, do you know what the content of the second round is? Lu Ming changed the topic. It might be related to the Dark Universe. Ling Yue sent a sound transmission to Lu Ming. Dark Universe? Lu Ming's heart was beating wildly. He had heard from Bone Devil that the Heavenly Palace collected baleful yin qi with spirituality. It might be related to the Dark Universe. However, he wanted to ask in detail, but the Bone Devil didn't say much. He only said that he would understand more after he became a heavenly soldier. Who would have thought that Ling Yue would mention it again? Furthermore, it seemed that the second round of the Heavenly Soldier examination was related to the Dark Universe. What is the Dark Universe? How much do you know? Tell me about it. Lu Ming sent a sound transmission to Ling Yue. Ling Yue shook her head and continued to transmit her voice. I only heard Royal Father mention it a few times, but he didn't say much. He said that the Heavenly Palace has a rule that no one can casually reveal information about the Dark Universe to the outside world. He only said that when I become a heavenly soldier, I will naturally understand it more clearly. Lu Ming could only suppress the curiosity in his heart. He would naturally understand after the examination. After chatting with Ling Yue for a while, the few of them each found a place to sit down, cultivating while waiting. This wait lasted for a full 2 years. After all, some people needed a long time in the first round of the examination. For example, Lu Ming's examination was set at 1 year. It was just that they completed it faster and finished it ahead of time. It was normal for some of the examinations to take 2 years. In these 2 years, Lu Ming had already gained a deep understanding of the Great Devil Sword technique. He believed that with a little more time he would be able to enter the sect and turn it into a secret technique rune that would fuse into his cells. At this time, the number of people gathered in the hall had already exceeded 10,000. Although the success rate of the first round of the examination was not very high, Lu Ming and the rest of the 12 people, only 2 of them had passed. It was only a 1 in 6 success rate. However, this great desolate universe was too big. There were also many people who had successfully obtained the baleful yin qi. Naturally, there were also many people who had signed up. At this moment, a few sky officials entered the hall. Up until now, the first round of the examination has already ended. You have already passed the first round of the examination. Now the second round will begin. As long as you pass the second round of the examination, you will be able to become a member of the Heavenly Soldier. And the second round of the examination is to enter the Dark Universe. In the middle, a white-haired sky official said, Dark Universe? At the scene, many people revealed puzzled expressions. It was obvious that this was the first time they had heard this name. However, there were also some people whose expressions did not change. It was obvious that they had long heard of this name, such as Ling Yue and the others who came from top clans. Next, I will briefly introduce the Dark Universe. However, you have all heard that in the end, it is best not to spread the news of the Dark Universe. Otherwise, the Heavenly Palace will punish you severely. The white-haired sky official said with a cold expression. Many people's hearts trembled as they hurriedly nodded. They did not dare to disobey the orders of the Heavenly Palace. The white-haired sky official raised his hand and pressed down, causing the hall to quiet down. The Dark Universe does not belong to the Great Desolate Universe. The white-haired sky official continued, but after he finished speaking he stopped as if waiting for everyone to absorb and digest. What? Many people were shocked, including Lu Ming. What did it mean that it did not belong to the Great Desolate Universe? For example, those small worlds and middle worlds were all attached to the Great Desolate Universe and still belonged to the Great Desolate Universe. As for the Dark Universe, it actually did not belong to the Great Desolate Universe. Could it be that there was more than one universe in this world? Lord Sky Official, could it be that there is more than one universe? In the endless primal chaos, other than the Great Desolate Universe, there are other universes? Someone raised a question. Not necessarily. The Dark Universe can't be considered another universe. It is different from the Great Desolate Universe. It is a strange place. The white-haired Sky Official said. Senior Sky Official, are there other universes? Someone asked. I'm not too sure about that either. The white-haired Sky Official said. Let's talk about the Dark Universe. It is a strange place and there are countless demons living in it. Demons? Abyssal demons? Then the abyss? Someone exclaimed. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He had often heard the term abyssal demons when he was in a small world. Later, when he came to the Great Desolate Universe, he often heard it again. However, he did not know where the abyss was. He used to think that it was just a middle world or a starfield. Could it really be the Dark Universe? If you want to talk about the abyss, it's not wrong. The abyss in the rumors refers to the Dark Universe. The white-haired Sky Official said.